All right, we are playing what many of you may consider a horror game today. We are playing an otome visual novel called These Nights in Cairo. Because I need a break, and I don't want to be frustrated today, and I could certainly use some beefcake. So that's what we're doing. Hey, baby 10, you're gonna like this. It is a romance, but it's actually got a decent story. It's not that bad, and it's short. It's short enough to where I think I might be able to get one full route streamed in a couple hours. So we'll see. So let us start These Nights in Cairo. Plus, I get to do a little voice acting. Cairo, 1914. Ah, it's so hot today. I can barely breathe, and yet it's only spring. Thanks. Although I'm not so surprised. Obviously, the weather in Cairo is different from what I'm accustomed to in England, or not England, in London. I'm feeling a little bit nostalgic for London's famous fog and chilly, drizzling rain, despite never caring for it before. In any case, I'm happy I convinced Father to take me on this excavation. We'll be traveling to Saqqara soon. The thing is that my father's friend, Mr. Green, an archaeologist and renowned Egyptologist, has discovered something there. I know it's something about an undiscovered mastaba that dates back to the time of the first pharaohs. This is an incredibly interesting find, considering the tomb is quite a distance from the rest of the buildings of the Memphis necropolis. If I understand correctly, Mr. Green found something unusual inside the mastaba's burial chamber. I take pleasure in thinking about the upcoming trip to Saqqara and smile. Archaeology has been my passion ever since Father took me on my first excavation in Giza. Although I was only a teenager back then, I immediately knew that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Too bad Father has different opinions on that matter. My thoughts are interrupted by a knock on the door. Oh my god, that's loud. Okay, I gotta get these preferences set here. Okay, sound volume. That's way too loud. Hey, Gabby! We're playing a horror game today. No, auto speed, text speed here. We're gonna speed that up. We're playing an otome game. Before I can ask who it is, I hear Father's impatient voice. Margaret, how long are you going to make me wait? I glance at the huge clock's face and instantly know why Father is not in a good mood. Margaret, if you don't come out now, I'm going to the museum without you. Hey, Glenn, thank you for the sub. I'm coming. Please wait. I grab my hat and purse and rush out the door. My father is a strict man of rules, and he has a rather peculiar nature. He could easily leave without me, although he knows very well how much I want to see the Cairo Museum. You should have come down the hall 15 minutes ago. What's wrong? I'm sorry, Daddy. I was just a little lost in thought and lost track of time. Margaret, I'm only taking you on the condition that you're not to interfere with my work. I thought that was clear. Daddy, I'm sorry. It's not a big deal anyway. Not a big deal. The fact that you're here now and not in London is already a big deal. You'll be married in a month, and I know you're trying to avoid Lord Whimsy at all costs. You expect me to believe that you really came here to practice archaeology and not be away from him? Damn it. Why does he have to remind me of that pompous idiot, Whimsy? I'd finally thrown the thought of him out of my mind. If not for Gregory, Father wouldn't be marrying me off by hook and crook. Of course, Lord Whimsy is rich and influential and able to deal with my brother's debt, who squandered our family's fortune. But what does that have to do with me? Really, if Gregory needs money, let him marry Lord Whimsy. I cringe every time I picture the oily eyes of my fiancé. Hey, Kaseya. And his terribly dirty jokes make me want to put a bucket on his head and bash it hard with something heavy. Father, I don't believe that my marriage is the only way out of this situation. First, there surely must be some other way that doesn't require such a high price. And second, why do you even believe that Lord Whimsy will agree to pay Gregory's debts? Father sighs wearily. Margaret, we talked about this already. If you don't do this, our family will lose the estate. Oh boy. Lose the estate. Do I argue or keep silent? Why does it have to be on me? Why does this have to be, our family's future have to be on my shoulders? I'm gonna go the whole, I'm just gonna argue. But Daddy, why won't you make Gregory solve these problems himself? Be quiet now. I'm not going to justify myself nor my decision to you. We are talking about my future. Why must I sacrifice my dreams and desires in order to fix my brother's mistakes? Enough arguing. We're already late. Come quickly or I'll leave you here. Father briskly walks toward the hotel lobby without looking back. For a moment I'm breathless with resentment, but I know arguing with him is pointless. If a man such as he decides something, he won't change his mind, but I refuse to give up hope. Still, I take after him in my stubbornness. Margaret! I'm coming! I pick up my skirt and follow him. I should kick his butt. Yeah, why do I have to pay for my brother's idiocy? Seriously. The hotel where we're staying is located quite close to the Cairo Museum building. We easily travel on foot, ignoring the services of the intrusive Arab cab drivers who loudly and enthusiastically call after customers. Father is in a hurry, and I'm barely able to keep up as I try to maneuver through the motley and noisy crowds. Today he has a big meeting with the director of the museum, Mr. Farouk. Usually the director has business with Robert Greene and his team, but he sometimes consults my father with archaeology questions. In fact, these meetings are quite rare, thus Father never misses an opportunity to meet with Mr. Farouk, as it flatters his vanity. It is no secret that the director of the museum himself is a former archaeologist, and a well-known one at that. As such, he prefers to work with only the best specialists in the field. Hey, Matt Newey! After passing through a series of narrow alleyways, we suddenly find ourselves in front of the magnificent museum building. I begin to feel excited and thrilled. Funny, I imagine this is how a religious person might feel upon entering a temple. Although it may sound silly, archaeology has become my religion. There is nothing more stunning, more intriguing than touching ancient mysteries. Even ordinary fragments from a crock-pot can tell an archaeologist about the amazing events of the past, if only one looks at it closely. When we are within the cool gloom of the museum, I look around with pleasure. Hundreds, if not thousands, of exhibits surround me on all sides. As if spellbound, I wander between them, not even noticing when Mr. Farouk appears with a young man. Good afternoon, Mr. Dawson. Who is this charming lady? Chewie, get out of the way! Your daughter? Yes, indeed, Mr. Farouk. This is Margaret. Smiling discreetly, the director of the museum approaches me and gallantly kisses my hand. It is a pleasure meeting you again. I remember the last time I saw you. You were just a child. Good afternoon, Mr. Farouk. Mr. Farouk curiously looks me over from head to toe. I feel uneasy. But the young man who accompanies him, as it seems, is oblivious to what's happening around him. His gaze seems vacant, and his face frozen in a thoughtful expression. I can't help but notice the similarity between him and Mr. Farouk. As far as I know, the director of the museum has no sons. Maybe he's a nephew? Although, what difference does it make? I continue to examine the exhibits in the showcases while involuntarily listening in on the conversation between Father and Mr. Farouk. Listen, one is my dad, right? One is the museum head, and the other dude is a hot bishy. So I'm just saying. I'm just saying. At first, they exchange a few polite phrases about the weather and politics, and then proceed to discuss the expedition, which my father is preparing for. Chewie doesn't want me to read this today. He keeps walking in front of me. Get out of the way, cat. Come on. To tell you the truth, I was glad to hear that you were back in Cairo, Mr. Dawson. There are not many first-class professionals such as you and Mr. Greene in the field of archaeology. I could not miss the chance to invite you to a meeting. At the same time, I would like to introduce you to my companion, Mr. Abdul Al-Ghazi. The young man tilts his head slightly, but says nothing. What a strange fellow. I have worked with him for about a year. Mr. Ghazi is engaged in the outfitting and financing of archaeological expeditions. Thanks to him, Mr. Greene is now at the Saqqara excavation. I must say, I came here at Mr. Green's invitation. I shall join him in Saqqara in a few days. Upon hearing of Saqqara, the young man who has paid no attention to the conversation until now immediately perks up. Despite the fact that he remains quiet, it is obvious he is now carefully listening to the conversation. Robert wrote to me that he discovered the mastaba near the necropolis, and that it has yet to be studied by archaeologists. We've worked together before, so I could not decline his invitation, despite the fact that I currently have very important things to do. I wonder if Father is talking about the preparations for my wedding and the proceedings with Gregory's creditors. So for the sake of meeting with my good friend, and to see this discovery with mine own eyes... Did I say mine? I've been playing way too much Final Fantasy XIV. I gave up everything to come here. Oh, that is great, Mr. Dawson. I see that you are full of enthusiasm. However, it is typical for you to get down to work with passion. Archaeology is the meaning of my life, Mr. Farouk. There is nothing else. That is highly commendable. I think I can assist you with some things. What would you say if I gave you a few herders with camels and some additional archaeological tools? Also, I may be able to find you a top-notch guide who knows the sands of Saqqara inside and out. That would be very helpful, Mr. Farouk. My good friend Mr. Green wrote that the mastaba is heavily buried in sand, so we'll need the extra manpower. But tell me, what is the reason for your generosity? As I recall, you've never offered such things before. Oh, it is because of my companion, Mr. Ghazi. He is very interested in the excavations in that area. Mr. Farouk politely nods to the young man. He says nothing, but faintly smiles when hearing his name. A hunch comes to me. Perhaps Mr. Ghazi cannot speak English. Apparently, my father is thinking the same as he says, Give Mr. Ghazi my gratitude. Believe me, if there is truly something unique about this mastaba, he will know about it first. Mr. Farouk whispers something to his young companion, and he smiles again, slightly nodding to my father. Then Father and the director of the museum begin discussing what exactly is needed for the expedition, and how many people it would be best to send. They agree to have the caravan waiting for us tomorrow morning on the road out of the city. It makes me so happy, I can't wait to go to the dig. The only thing that disappoints me is having to ride camels. I know perfectly well that there's no other way to reach our destination, and there's no other transport that can travel across the desert, but my dislike of camels does not allow me to relax, and worst of all, it's a mutual aversion. When Father is about to leave, Mr. Farouk catches his sleeve and says, You know, Mr. Ghazi believes that Mr. Green's mastaba is merely part of a bigger complex that was once in that area. Somewhere close to it may be something more interesting and more valuable than the tomb alone. Are you saying that Mr. Ghazi knows something about this mastaba that others don't? Mr. Ghazi has his own sources of information, but he is never wrong. You will need to explore the area around the mastaba very carefully. It is strange that Mr. Green himself is in no hurry to explore the area. After all, this may be a tremendous discovery, but I am sure you will handle it well. Only one condition. You must immediately inform me of any findings, and no one else. Okay, this is sounding very, very shady. This is sounding shadier by the minute. Father contemplates this for a moment, but almost immediately his eyes light up in excitement. Oh, I know that look. He's accepted the challenge. Agreed. Mr. Farouk and my father shake hands. Then the museum director and his silent companion leave. Casting a parting glance on the richness of all the museum exhibits, I follow my father, who heads to the door. I'll need to quickly go back to the hotel and begin my preparations for the trip. Margaret, it's not too late to change your mind. You can still go back to London tomorrow. You will have nothing to do with the excavation. Father, you promised. If I truly have to marry Lord Whimsy, I will never have the chance to go on expeditions anymore. Just let me enjoy what's left of my freedom, since you're intent on locking me away for the rest of my life. Margot, don't be so dramatic. Do not make me out to be a monster. Margaret, please understand, I don't wish you any ill. If you really didn't, you wouldn't be forcing me to marry Lord Whimsy. I don't want to continue this conversation. Go to your room. Tomorrow we wake up early. Also, I should inform our companion that our departure is postponed until tomorrow morning, so I need to go. With these words, Father leaves. Seeing his cheerful steps and the sparkle in his eye makes me realize that his thoughts are no longer on my destiny at all. I have to admit, Mr. Farouk's cryptic message intrigues me. What was he talking about? What exactly does Mr. Ghazi know? What a pity I have so little time to research. No, I will do everything in my power to remain on the excavation. I just hope to never see Lord Whimsy again. Oh boy. The next morning. At dawn, we travel to the outskirts of the city. There, at the appointed place, we'll wait for Father's new companion and the people Mr. Farouk is sending along with us. Normally, his usual expedition companion is Mr. Green, but Mr. Green has been working with his own team for a long while now. To tell the truth, I don't understand why it's necessary to send another archaeologist to the excavation site, considering there are already enough in Mr. Green's camp. Did I say it's Whimsy? I'm saying Whimsy? Well, I'm just going to keep saying Whimsy. Because I keep reading it that way. In the end, we still need to use the services of a cab to make it in time. It's a good thing, too, because I have too much baggage to carry alone. Father isn't particularly pleased about this, as he would have enjoyed a nice walk. To make things worse, the cab driver thinks he's a good singer. Listening to some Arabian song coming from a tone-deaf cabbie isn't a pleasant experience at all. In order to not irritate my father even more, I decide not to ask about his new companion, especially since he's probably already waiting for us along with everyone else. Even from afar, I hear the distinct guttural sounds that the camels are making. Shivering nervously, I try to pretend that I'm not afraid of them. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Father, who is so deep in thought that he completely ignores me. Oddly enough, our companion is nowhere to be seen. But in addition to the camel herders, Mr. Farouk is here. His mysterious companion, Mr. Ghazi, isn't with him today. Smiling politely, the director greets us and orders his people to pack our belongings onto the camels. While the herders work, Father and Mr. Farouk talk softly about the upcoming trip. Although I understand that the information is not for my ears, I try to get as close as possible. As you see, initially Mr. Ghazi and I employed Mr. Green and his team for these excavations, but for some reason he wants to abandon the research. If you are able to persuade him to continue his work, I will be most happy. But if not, I would like you to take the lead in the area's excavation. I see courage and excitement in you, something your friend is clearly lacking. Robert wants to abandon the research? I cannot believe it. This is a uniquely unexplored building, and besides, as you say, it is merely part of a bigger complex. It doesn't seem like him at all. I am afraid Mr. Green is a little bit, superstitious. Local legends can be a little frightening, but trust me, they are just stories. You're obviously hiding something from me, Mr. Farouk. What is it? Nothing that is worth fearing, Mr. Dawson. Especially since the mastaba your friend has found had already been opened a few years prior. Perhaps, as is often the case, robbers found it before the archaeologists. But according to Mr. Ghazi, there should be important ritual buildings directly connected to this tomb somewhere in that area. And those have most likely remained untouched. How does this this Ghazi guy know about this stuff? No, the camels are not husbando material. They're like Cassie says, they're huggable. They're very, very huggable. I must confess, you've piqued my curiosity. Well, that is good. Curiosity always benefits our work. And now, let me introduce you to Vasif. The museum director holds up his hand, and a grim, broad-shouldered man with an expressionless face separates from the crowd of camel herders. The herders report directly to Vasif, so all issues can be resolved through him. Also, he is the only one here who speaks English. I don't know if I trust this. I welcome you, sir. Vasif has a very heavy accent, but his English is pretty clear. If the gentleman needs something, I am always nearby. Great, Vasif? With the same expressionless face, the man bows and heads back to the herders. After discussing some minor things, Father and Mr. Farouk finally part, both highly pleased with each other. A carriage is already waiting nearby for the director of the museum, and as soon as Mr. Farouk leaves, the herders immediately relax and begin discussing something rather loudly. Father impatiently looks at the dial of the pocket watch he always carries with him and winces. We have to leave, but his companion still isn't here. Daddy, maybe we shouldn't be waiting for anyone. Perhaps your partner has urgent business and isn't coming. He will, Margot. But no buts. Obviously, he has a good reason for being late. Sure. If I were so late, Father would gladly have left without me. Out of boredom, I begin to look around. What? Who is this dude? Suddenly, not far off, I notice a man who apparently is trying to remain unnoticed. He's not doing a very good job of remaining unnoticed. Amid the ruins, there is no doubt he's watching us. He's dressed in traditional, how do you say that word? Bedouin garb, so I am unable to get a good look at him. But it's clearly not one of the herders. I watch the man spy on us for a few minutes before he notices me. But even realizing that I see him, he doesn't move. Then a loud voice distracts me from our staring contest. Good afternoon, Mr. Dawson. And when I turn back again, he's gone. Margaret, say hello to Duncan Mackenzie, my new companion. Father glares at the smiling blonde and continues. He is the reason we are leaving so late. It seems Father's remark doesn't bother Mackenzie at all. And this is my daughter, Margaret. The blonde smile grows even wider. It's nice to meet you. I have to admit, you're even more adorable than I imagined. Father rolls his eyes but says nothing. Odd. Usually he immediately makes it clear that I have a fiancé in order to prevent any attempts at men flirting with me. Before I even respond to Mr. Mackenzie's greeting, he's already distracted by my father, who begins telling him something. Duncan does quite a lot of gesticulating, and as he's flailing his arms, his cloak opens a little. I spot a holster with a gun on his belt. I'm not quite sure he's an archaeologist. Not that I don't trust my father, but he is a secretive man, and perhaps he's unable to tell the whole truth. While Father talks with Mr. Mackenzie, who loudly tries to explain something, I move closer to where I had seen the stranger. Wait, is everybody giving BB-10 hugs? I think this calls for a group hug. Well, he couldn't have disappeared into thin air. Father and the others are nearby, so I'm not afraid of anything, if anything were to happen to me. The man seems suspicious, and I want to be sure he's really gone. Before I can peek inside the ruin, a strong hand gently clamps over my mouth and drags me behind the wall. Oh shit. And then I hear a calm male voice with an Eastern accent. It is okay. Do not panic. I will not hurt you. Terrified by my own carelessness, I break into a cold sweat. I never imagined that the stranger might prevent me from calling for help, and now I literally have goosebumps all over my body. Well, I think the goosebumps are the least of your worries, Margot. But I somehow find the courage to nod. The stranger gently lets me go, and I stand face to face with him. You should not travel to Saqqara. Mr. Green is already trapped there and unlikely to get out alive. Is this a threat? No, this is a warning. Who are you? I am a friend. If you're a friend, why do you hide? Be careful with your companions. One of them is dangerous. The stranger is obviously not a talker. Each phrase is as short and informative as possible. And why should I believe you? It is up to you. I am only here to warn you. Do you know what's in the mastaba? It has long been empty. But what was there before? Suddenly I hear rustling from behind me. I turn and see Mr. Mackenzie. You shouldn't wander off from the group, Miss Margaret. There are dangerous people in the desert. He says this in a tone that sounds like he's explaining to a stupid child that one should not talk to strangers. I quickly look behind the remains of the sand wall, but nobody's there. What? No, there are no bros in this game. There is no bros in this story. But there are... but there are beefcake. No bros. Duncan holds out his hand with a look implying that I should return to father. Did Mr. Mackenzie see the stranger too, or did he just follow me? Come on, Mr. Dawson is waiting. The voice of my father's companion has acquired notes of steel, and it makes me feel uneasy. Pointedly ignoring his outstretched hand, I proudly pass him. What is wrong with his hand? I'm just noticing this now. Like, his hand looks real... I don't know what's wrong with his hand. Okay. He only smirks at me while on the trail. Margaret, never wander far from Mr. Mackenzie or me. This isn't London. You cannot freely roam wherever you want. Well, I'm pretty sure London isn't that safe either. Do I need to tell Father what the stranger said to me? I don't think it will make him change his plans, but maybe he'll be interested in hearing it, at least. Oh boy. Do I tell him? Do I tell him, or do I just say, fuck it, I'm gonna keep silent? I need a beef cake. No, that's not right. That's not right. I'm going to... Okay, fine. I'll keep silent. Sorry, Daddy. I had grown tired of listening to you and Mr. Mackenzie talk, so I decided to stretch my legs before the trip. That was very irresponsible of you, Margot. Please understand, I would never forgive myself if something happened to you. Yes, I know, Daddy. Okay, that's enough. Soon it will be very hot, and we have yet to leave the city. Father says something to Vasif, who then orders everyone else to depart. It seems all the kindness Mr. Mackenzie had shown me during his introduction returns to him, as he helps me onto my camel. I would gladly refuse his help, but unfortunately I feel very insecure about being alone with the camel. And so we finally set off. Father and Vasif go on ahead, occasionally exchanging remarks, and Mr. Mackenzie rides near me. Thanks to Duncan being able to speak Arabic fluently, he's able to converse with the herders and is now telling them something while gesticulating wildly. Judging by the bursts of laughter coming from among them, they're clearly having a good time. Sometimes I run across his eyes, which, nevertheless, do not express interest or even any emotion. He occasionally glances in my direction from time to time, but nothing more. I must say, it is quite irritating. The sun has climbed quite high and is now mercilessly hot, but I'm not paying attention to the heat. I can't help but think about the stranger. What did he mean when he said that Mr. Green was in danger? Maybe I should stop Father. Convince him to turn back. Perhaps I shouldn't keep quiet about it, if there really is something dangerous. Too bad I wasn't able to learn a little more about what is going on from that strange fellow. Mr. Mackenzie stepped in at precisely the wrong time. It's only 30 kilometers from Cairo to Saqqara, so by evening we are nearing Mr. Green's camp. Vasif knew the way here well. Apparently he has already been here before with my father's friend, as he easily finds the way to the mastaba despite the fact that it is removed from the other necropolis structures. What? Oh my god. Hold on. I need a sip. I need a sip of my latte before it goes cold. I'm strangely struck by the fact that there is not a single camel near the camp. Strange. Where did they go? And before we are inside the camp, Mr. Green comes out to greet us. It is apparent that he's very happy to see my father. Richard! Is that really you? And baby Maggie here, too. Hello. Hello, Maggie. I was afraid that Richard stopped taking you on expeditions. I was afraid of that too, Mr. Green. Richard, I'm happy to see you again, but what fate has brought you here? How did you come to know where I am? But, Robert, did you not ask me to help you with the excavation yourself in your letter? Of course, I understand you're always deep in work, but it is unlike you to have such memory lapses. The letter? What do you mean? Uh-oh. There was no letter, was there? I would never have summoned you to this place. What do you mean? It was the letter I received back in London last week. I certainly did not write any letters. I am not so overworked as to forget about writing to my best friend asking for help. Wait, then who? Father is unable to finish his sentence when he sees Mr. Green change face. Following Mr. Green's gaze, I realize he's staring at Vasif. I think Mr. Green may be afraid of our guide. Vasif himself looks completely detached to what is happening. Suddenly, with a wry smile, Mr. Green says, "You were sent by Mr. Farouk, am I right?" Does that change anything? You shouldn't have come. You must leave as soon as possible. Robert, what are you? Mr. Farouk is searching for something that should never fall into his hands. What are you even talking about? Mr. Green looks at me and then at Vasif, who is standing nearby helping the herders unload our baggage from the camels. I'll explain everything, but not here. He takes Father by the arm and literally drags him into his tent. I cannot hide my disappointment. Whatever story Mr. Green is telling my father in private has me so intrigued that I can't resist. What is... Wait, now I can't ever unsee that. Damn it. Why'd you gotta say that? God damn it. Such a beautiful lady shouldn't say such words. I'm not as beautiful as one might think upon first glance, Mr. Mackenzie. Ha! So critical. What do you want from me? Not much. I just noticed that for whatever reason you've disliked me ever since we first met. Do I need to fall in love with you? Well, I'm certainly not counting on that. So, what did you expect? I can see indirectness isn't for you. No, I am a straightforward person, and if I want to know something, I'll simply ask. Very convenient. Unfortunately, that doesn't suit me. So, what do you want from me? Fine, I won't play around. Who were you talking to before we left town? Who was the man hiding in the ruins? So Duncan did see him and interrupted us on purpose. I have no idea. Mr. Mackenzie's eyes turned strict and cold again, just as they were back then. Really? That was the only time I've seen him in my life. Why would I lie to you? Did he say anything to you? Should I tell him about the man's warning? Uh-oh. Uh-oh! Do I tell him or keep silent? Oh no. I know what BB10's gonna say. Keep silent. Don't tell him anything. Shit. Okay, fine. I'll keep silent. I don't think I can trust Mr. Mackenzie. You're trying to get me to screw this up, aren't you? Even though it was my father who allowed him to join us. He doesn't seem like an archaeologist either. I don't think he is who he says he is. That man wanted to say something to me, but then you came and scared him off. Oh, I didn't think I was so scary. Mr. Mackenzie goes silent for a moment, thinking about what I had told him, and then says, I think your father will be busy for a while now. Yes, I suppose so. And the sun is already setting, so we'll need to settle in for the night. Just tell me what you need. Would you like to spend the evening in my company? BB10's gonna tell me no. You know what this is gonna do? If I do every one of BB10's, choices, guess what's gonna happen? I'm gonna end up with the worst ending. That's what he wants. Oh god, do you not know that I am engaged to be married? Of course, and I'm flattered you think of me in that way, but I only want to help you unpack your stuff and set up your tent. And I am absolutely not approaching you in any way romantically. I sigh. It's hard talking to someone who says nothing right. Next time, cut the doublespeak, please. So you'll accept my help? Actually, the herders were supposed to help me, but they're busy unloading, and I don't think I can finish it all by myself before dark. The desert is getting dark very quickly. Maybe I could use some help. His hand! What is wrong with his hand? Seriously. Everything else is fine, but that hand. Okay, I'm gonna accept his help. No, I'm gonna accept it, okay? I'm gonna need help here. I'm too exhausted, and Father will apparently be busy for some time, so the help wouldn't be entirely unappreciated. If you insist, let's go. Listen, I don't want to end up alone with Vasif, because I don't know what the fuck he's gonna do. I don't trust these guys, right? I mean, I don't entirely trust him, but at least he has a gun. Duncan is almost done setting up the tent and unloading my belongings shortly before it's completely dark. I can't help but notice he clearly knows what he's doing. Maybe I made a mistake in thinking he couldn't possibly be connected to archaeology and expeditions. Duncan works quickly and deftly, telling jokes on the go, which are at times really funny. I'm already starting to forget how cold he seemed to me back at the ruin. We're all set. Thank you for your help, Mr. Mackenzie. Oh, don't bother with that Mr. stuff. I don't really like it. I'm just an ordinary man, and such pleasantries are not to my liking. Let's drop the Mr. and Miss. Fine, Duncan. He smiles, satisfied. The sunsets in the desert are very beautiful. Just the sky and the sand, and nothing to prevent you from enjoying the sight. Yes, perhaps, but I'm often looking at the ground rather than the sky. An old habit of mine, so as not to lose sight of anything important on digs. So you're really into this stuff. Archaeology? Of course. Why would I be here otherwise? I guess I said that too passionately, as Duncan smiles at me incredulously. But surely you have plans for the future, something not related to digging in the sand in search of painted shards. Do you mean my marriage? Actually, yes. Why are you here if your groom is waiting for you in London? The question brings to mind unpleasant memories, and I answer in a cold tone. I am where I want to be, Duncan. Do you really prefer these old desert ruins to London and your future husband? Did my father ask you to talk to me about this? Duncan suddenly laughs. Seems like I need to be more careful with you. You're too quick-witted. You know, after all the stories Mr. Dawson told me about you, I imagined you to be quite different. What are you talking about? Never mind. What did my father say about me? No, I need to go. There's so much to do, and I don't know where to start. Duncan? You don't want to hear it. You already started, so keep going. Yes, this piano music is strangely annoying. Fine. It seems Mr. Dawson considers your interest in archaeology to be merely a pretense, a play. He said it's your way of humiliating your brother, who isn't interested in those types of things at all. He really said that? Mr. Dawson mentioned that he only took you on this journey because he was tired of your endless whims, and so he gave in. Whims? I feel utterly insulted. So father thinks archaeology is the meaning of his life, but not mine? A pretense? A play? You said you always compete with your brother, trying to be better than him. What does he mean by trying? I'm already a much better person than he is. I, at least, have not squandered our family fortune on taverns and women. Hey, stop shouting. I'm only telling you what he said. You don't need to prove anything to me. I must say, I didn't expect to see you as such a serious and enthusiastic woman. I'd readied myself for a spoiled princess. I did not expect. I'm literally unhinged. I never imagined father thought of me so, like a naughty girl competing with her brother for a father's love. I feel my eyes begin to tear, so I decide to hurry to my tent. I couldn't stand for anyone to see me cry. Hey, are you crying? Not at all, Mr. Mackenzie. Duncan. That's my name. You are... Come on, stop. I have no idea what to do with crying girls. It's all right. You don't need to do anything. I feel tears run down my cheeks. Hey, that's enough tears. Pull yourself together. You're strong. Okay, it's my fault. I shouldn't have told you all of this. And besides, your father wouldn't want you to know either. Yeah, you're probably right. Duncan takes out his handkerchief and hands it to me. Nodding gratefully, I take it and begin wiping away the tears. No, it's a good thing I know now. I'm finally starting to understand father's behavior. Pulling myself up, I hand the handkerchief back to Duncan, but he declines. I think you need it more than I do. Thank you. I won't keep you. It's time to sleep. Ah, yes, it's time. Are you sure you're okay? I'm fine. And you absolutely don't need my help. No, thank you. You've already done enough putting up my tent. Okay, we need to be up early tomorrow. Good night, by the way. Good night. I head to my tent. How stupid of me to cry in front of Duncan. He was so confused. I need to be a little more restrained with my emotions, or at least try to control my temper. I'm afraid it isn't the best trait I've inherited from Father. I wasn't hurt as much as by the fact that Father had such a poor opinion of me, but by the fact that he sent a stranger to convince me to give up the excavation and head back to London. He never has enough time to spend with me himself, but is that a reason to ask his companion to talk to his own daughter about her future? Daddy, you always do that. Next morning. Okay, the piano music's gone, thank God. That was getting a little annoying. No, that guy definitely isn't Hubert. First thing in the morning, I search for Father. It's quite hard not to give myself away after Duncan let things slip last night, but I try to pretend everything is all right. As it turns out, I catch him in time. Father, Mr. Green, and a few of the archaeologists from the camp are headed to the very mastaba where it all began. Soon they'll leave without me. It's strange that Duncan isn't with them. I didn't think an archaeologist would refuse such help. Margot, you're here. Can I go with you? Of course, Margaret. I think you'll also be interested in seeing what I found there. I'm sure I will, Mr. Green. Father glares at his friend but says nothing. I just don't think we should stay there very long. I will show you the find. Then I think it would be best for all of us to return to Cairo. We already discussed this, Robert. Since when have you become so superstitious? It is you who's always been too reckless, Richard. Okay, let's go. Maggie, stay close. Hey, I'm coming with too. Duncan? Hadn't he declined to come with us? What has gotten into him? In the corner of my eye, I notice Father nodding approvingly. Okay. I promptly follow Mr. Green, as I'm anxious to see what lies beneath the ground. Quickly, I begin to feel as if these stairs are endless. It's strange, but the burial chamber here is much deeper than usual. As a rule, mastaba burial chambers are at a depth of between 2 and 20 meters. Here, we're all of 50, maybe more. We descend the stairs, which have been almost completely destroyed by time, and arrive in a large sanded space. Mr. Green immediately moves forward and signs to me and the others to come closer. There is a well-preserved fresco on the wall in front of us. While it's crumbled and faded in some places, it's easy enough to examine what's on it. But the object that draws my father's attention, and my own, is the sarcophagus. So, you were talking about this, Father says, looking inside. Of course, I can't resist. I, too, look inside the sarcophagus. This is clearly a tomb from the early archaic period. Look at how rich the furniture, what kind of inlay. I'm sure a forgotten pharaoh of antiquity was buried here. Interestingly, there is no pharaoh statue buried in the serdab of this mastaba. It's as if no one was to bring him offerings or pay respects. What's more, there are no statues representing the buried at all. For the Egyptians, the presence of the statues in their tombs was very important. It is through these statues that a man's soul, his ka, is able to recognize its owner and reunite with him in the afterlife, should the body of the deceased become corrupt. The fact that there's not a single statue here, not even one in the serdab, is very revealing. Wasn't a deceased pharaoh supposed to resurrect in the afterlife? Careful, Richard. The lid of the sarcophagus is entirely cracked and broken. Inside, as you can see, is nothing and no one. You said that the tomb had already been unsealed by someone before you. Why wouldn't you think they took the pharaoh's mummy with them? For starters, look closely at the cover again, Richard. It was broken from the inside. This statement sends a chill down my spine. But how was that even possible? Could he have broken the cover and gotten out himself? Even if the man was buried alive, he'd have fairly quickly run out of air. And to break such a massive cover with one's bare hands, you'd need to spend thousands of years. It would be impossible for a human to do. Margaret, don't interfere, please. In fact, Maggie's right. By the way, the tomb itself, unlike the sarcophagus, was opened from the outside, but we found a large amount of damage to the burial chamber door, as if someone tried destroying it from the interior. The door did not yield, but then someone opened the tomb from the outside and released whatever was trying to escape. It's pretty creepy. Mr. Green's words have my imagination running wild. Now come here. Mr. Green makes a gesture pointing to a mural. I immediately go to it. It tells a very interesting story about who owned this tomb. Are you talking about the tale of Ramesu and Amphis? Richard, your friends are probably interested in this as well, so let me tell them. Father falls silent, his face expressing frustration. Mr. Green glances at all those present and begins his story. Here tells the tale of two brothers, Amphis and Ramesu. Amphis was the eldest son of the king of Egypt, and after his death became king, and Ramesu, the younger brother, was jealous of Amphis and wanted the throne for himself. Ramesu was very ambitious and dreamed of conquering all the lands that were known at the time. He knew that the troops would follow him, and therefore decided to kill his brother and seize the throne, after which he would gather his army. And so Ramesu slipped poison into his brother's drink and gave it to him. Amphis died, but it so happened that his wife, the queen, witnessed the murder. Together with her son, she fled the palace and told the priests of what happened. But they had no power to stop Ramesu. Ramesu announced that Amphis perished from disease, buried him, and ascended the throne himself. But he was a true tyrant. First, he gathered a huge army, for which even peasants were used, and after, he began conquering foreign lands regardless of the cost. People suffered, and blood flowed like rivers during Ramesu's reign. But the pharaoh was afraid that he would die before he finished his conquests, and so he made a deal with the goddess of war and disease, Sekhmet. He built her a great temple and offered many sacrifices to her in exchange for an artifact, one that made him ageless and invincible. As I said, it is just a fairy tale. Hang on, Richard. Let me finish the story first. After that, Ramesu declared himself a god, the son of Sekhmet. I should say, life in Egypt became insufferable during the reign of such a god. Witnessing the suffering this new god brought upon the people, the priests gathered a council from which they decided that Ramesu should be destroyed. But they had nothing with which to kill Ramesu. The priests decided to bury him alive in a heavy sarcophagus deep within a tomb from which he could not escape. Here, in this part, it shows how the priests put him in the sarcophagus. In here, how they placed the seal on the tomb. Somewhere near this mastaba is the temple that Ramesu built for Sekhmet. It was destroyed immediately after the god pharaoh was buried. So, it seems that it was Mr. Farouk is searching for. Okay, it seems that is what Mr. Farouk is searching for, although I do not know why. An ancient temple of Sekhmet. This could be an amazing find, Robert. I can't believe you want to leave everything behind and run away. Look at the sarcophagus, Richard. Something's not right here. Clearly, someone was in that stone coffin, and he was able to get out. I don't know why Mr. Farouk is looking for the Temple of Sekhmet, but he is very persistent. The other day I wrote him a letter and told him that I wanted to abandon this place. After the messenger returned to camp, that same night the herders left with all the camels. They left us without the ability to leave. And so now we're stuck here. Look, Richard, there is something in that temple that it would be best not to find. Stop panicking, Robert. You're acting like a cowardly boy, not a scientist. There's nothing mystical here, and the temple itself, if it even exists, is absolutely harmless. I'm sure even the broken cover itself can be explained away with rationale. Maybe it was from some kind of tremor, or... Tremors? Do you really believe that? I believe in science, not in gods or ancient curses. And if there are ruins of an ancient temple around here, I will definitely find them. Not only will it be a sensational discovery, but you'll also see for yourself that there's nothing dangerous there. Surely you have a map of the area. Give it to me and I'll figure out where the ruins of Sekhmet's temple is. Mr. Green shakes his head and moves towards the stairs. You'll never change, Richard. I have it upstairs in the camp. Come on. I know, this is just like, this is gonna get bad real quick here. When we return to the surface, I feel relieved. I never thought the atmosphere of the tomb would be so suffocating. Father and Mr. Green go on to study a map of the area, and I decide to help the archaeologists with the sorting and reporting of their findings from the tomb. Duncan is hanging somewhere close, as I hear his loud voice from time to time. In all that time, he never once showed any interest in the archaeological finds. Still working? As you can see. Is there anything good? Oh, you bet. Look at these canopic jar remnants. They're empty. Don't you understand? Not quite. Usually when embalming a body, they pull out the insides and place them in vessels meant for internal organs, canopic jars. The jars of this tomb are empty, however. They were most likely left here in order to not break tradition. Look, can we not talk about the internal organs of corpses? You're gonna ruin your eyes with all those shards. Let's go for a walk. Go for a walk? Where? It's the desert. We'll walk around the camp, start a fire by your tent. Or you can try to catch a lizard. Do you like lizards? It'll be fun, I guarantee it. Oh, Duncan, just like a boy. I'm doing it. I'm sorry. I'm doing it. BB10, you can't stop me. I'm doing it. Except. Well, if you guarantee it'll be fun, then sure. Let's go. Yes! I like lizards, right? Duncan holds out his hand to me, just as he did at the ruins. Only this time I accept. Spending time with Duncan is really quite fun. He asks lots of questions, listens to me, sometimes jokes, but he seems somewhat tense. I try to read his face, try to determine what emotions he really feels, but it turns out to be quite difficult. I think he's used to keeping his feelings to himself, even though he plays the role of a hot-headed funny guy. Wait, Gaffy wants the bad ending? Figures. It's madness being in the desert for so long. Wherever you look, it's sky and sand, sand and sky. I have a feeling Duncan is trying to start that conversation again. We've only been here for 2 days. The desert has its appeal, and if you're busy, it's not boring at all. Tell me, you're not an archaeologist, are you? No. Then why are you here? It was your father's idea. He hired me. Hired? What do you mean? Think of me as your bodyguard. Plus, I have another job. What other job? Mr. Dawson doesn't have time to deal with you, so he asked me to persuade you to go back to London. And when you do, I'll escort you to Cairo. And I do? What if I refuse? Calm down. Don't be so loud. I still have plenty of time to convince you. You won't convince me. You can be sure of that. Please understand, Mr. Dawson will only pay me if I take you back to the city. So if I have to, I'll do it by force. Nothing personal. I need the money. What the hell? Unbelievable. Swearing doesn't suit you. Don't tell me how to talk. Why are you telling me all of this? Did you really think it would be easier to get me to go back after learning about your goal? On the contrary, I thought it'd be harder. Then why are you doing it? It's just that you're nothing like I imagined. Mr. Dawson was wrong about you. You're not playing. You really love all of this. And I decided to be honest with you. So that's why Duncan hovers around me all the time. The bodyguard. No, the babysitter. Just think about it. Why do you need to be here? Your father and his friend are busy with their excavation, and you, a lost soul, wandering about while everyone ignores you? Let's go back to Cairo. I'll get my money, and you'll head back to London and marry this... What was his name again? Duncan, you don't understand. I can't marry Lord Whimsy. No, it's Whimsy from now on, because I can't say Whimsy. Whimsy. Whatever. I don't love him. You say that as if you can't marry someone you don't love. Well, isn't it true? Maybe it is for ordinary folk like myself, but marriages of convenience are an old tradition in high society. You do realize that you're talking about my life. I don't know you. I just want my money. Hell, I can't even be mad at him. Duncan shouldn't care about what happens to me, and as he says as much. All he's interested in is money, which my father promised. But at least he's not lying to me. No, I'm not going anywhere. I have my own opinion on the matter. I want to stay, and I will. Well... Stop, you guys! Well, the night is young. You can always change your mind. I won't, Mr. Mackenzie. And I have to get back to my work. It's a pity I don't like quick-tempered and willful girls. Otherwise, I'd be charmed. It's a pity I don't like selfish and materialistic men. Otherwise, I'd be in love. I'm not selfish. Materialistic? Yes. But how could I not be with the life I've had? I don't want to hear his excuses and head back to my tent. So, Duncan is looking after me. Obviously, Father did something extremely stupid by hiring him. I don't think this man is capable of taking anything seriously. Left alone, I decide to continue labeling the finds from the tomb. I was hoping to unwind by taking a walk, but this Mackenzie managed to ruin my mood again. How did he put it? If necessary, he'll take me back to Cairo by force? Well, let's see him try. Bastard. And Father? He purposefully hired a man to force me to return home. Damn. Times like these make me feel as if the whole world is against me. Still, it's good that I told Duncan about the Bedouins' war names. Although, can I really trust the stranger? I don't even know. Mr. Green really was trapped here when the herders abandoned him with no chance to return to Cairo. What about the nomad's words, that Mr. Green was unlikely to return alive? Oh, I really don't like this. I lovingly rub a canopus betraying Anubis with a cloth, and sigh. And yet, who sent my father the letter on behalf of Mr. Green? Was it Mr. Farouk? But why did he not invite my father to the dig himself? Was he afraid that he wouldn't agree? Perhaps he knew Father wouldn't reject a request from Mr. Green, but that's no reason to forge a letter. Suddenly I hear Mr. Green's worried voice. When I see him, it looks as if he is talking to himself in a fit of desperation. No, and again, no! God, I must flee from here as quickly as possible. Mr. Green, are you all right? Oh, Maggie, your father has gone mad. What do you mean? You see, I foolishly showed him the plans on which I worked to calculate the location of the temple, the one mentioned in the legend. He compared my drawings to a modern map and an ancient papyrus, and now believes he knows the approximate location of Sekhmet's temple. So you were able to locate the temple? This news makes me very excited, but Mr. Green just shakes his head. I worked on it for a long time, but I'm unsure I calculated it correctly. But why do you say Father has gone mad? Richard made a suggestion based on my crude sketches and analysis of the map. It's not enough to find anything. But your father can't be stopped. Moreover, he's going there today. What is even stranger is that the ancient papyrus he found mentions that Sekhmet's artifact is in actuality a time machine. What? We went from freaking archaeology to fucking sci-fi. The time machine. Richard believes the artifact consists of two parts. A key, the possession of which gives the wearer immortality, and the machine, which allows him to travel through time. Thanks to that key, Ramasu became immortal, but he did not have enough time to use the artifact. Apparently, Mr. Farouk is looking for that time machine. It's crazy. These things should not fall into the hands of men ever again. But Mr. Green is just a legend. Time machines don't exist, and it's impossible to make one. I think it's just a fantasy made by ancient authors. We need to leave, Maggie, while we still can. I'm sure if the artifact indeed exists, and if we find it, not one of us will come out alive. Mr. Green looks around and whispers to me. Be careful of the thief, Maggie. He is a very dangerous man. Then Mr. Green once again shakes his head in frustration and walks away. The unexpected warning about Basif has me wince. Where did he get that information? Of course, Mr. Green isn't very brave, but to make up such things is out of character for him. But maybe he simply overreacted and is now exaggerating the degree of danger. A time machine? Imagine that! Maybe I need to ask Father to take me along when he goes to the suspected location of the temple. I'm sure he would want to go by himself and leave me in camp, under the supervision of the obnoxious Mr. Mackenzie. I spontaneously look around and, of course, see him nearby. Duncan notices my gaze and smiles slyly. With a heavy sigh, I turn back and pretend I'm working. Perhaps, after all, I'll risk trying to persuade Father to take me with. Of course, he'll be none too happy about it, but what if I succeed? There's no harm in trying, as they say. Alright, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick, because I've been reading for an hour and I'm drinking this latte and it's making me have to go. Of course, there's time travel, there's Egyptians, and there's crazy. This is like... I don't know, I don't want to ruin anything. I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah. Yep. Okay, that's much better. Hope it ends quickly. No, we're not gonna... I'm gonna try and not get us a bad ending. Okay. I know Father is in the tomb now, so I hurry there without hesitation. When I come down, I catch him studying the ancient papyri. He has the map of the necropolis in front of him. I wonder if Father is trying to find similarities between the ancient and modern maps to more accurately pinpoint the location of the temple. Daddy? Huh? What? Margot, why are you here? Don't distract me from my work. Mr. Green said you know the approximate location of Sekhmet's temple. It's still not very accurate. But you're going there today. If you want to come along, my answer is no. But why not? I promise I won't be a nuisance. You're already a nuisance, Margot. What? Seriously? Go back to camp. But Daddy, trust me. I won't bother you. I just want to see the places you do. Margot, I already told you I'm not so sure I know where this temple is. Maybe it's the wrong place, or there's nothing left of the temple to begin with. It's even possible that it may be so covered in sand that it will take months to determine the exact location. But nothing changes if I go with you. Father sighs. Why weren't you born a boy? It would have been much easier if you, not Gregory, were my son. What an odd thing to say. I've never heard him say he regrets that I'm not a man, unlike Gregory. But I'm your daughter, and an archaeologist. So if Gregory were in my place, you would take him without hesitation? You don't understand, Margot. Archaeology is often associated with risk and danger. This is not the place for you. You should be at fancy parties, surrounded by admiring gentlemen. I'm sure you would shine in high society if only you wanted to. Eventually, you'll need to marry and toss this nonsense out of your head. I don't know why you're doing this, but if you're looking for my recognition, I want you to know it's not needed. I already love you so much. You are my daughter. You don't need to prove anything to me. And there's no need to compete with Gregory either. Oh, man. Oh, man. So I get mad at him, or do I try to speak softly? I think I start yelling at him. I think I do. Yep, definitely get mad at him. Daddy, how can you not understand that I'm not competing with anyone, especially not Gregory? Since my childhood, I've always dreamt of being an archaeologist, and I absolutely do not want to be dressed up like a doll who nobody expects anything from other than visual appeal. I am not cut out for those things. Do you understand? First and foremost, I am my own person with my own desires and aspirations, and you cannot forbid me from choosing what my life should look like. If you think I should have been born a boy, that's not my fault. I am happy with who I am. And if your beloved son turned out to be a jerk, that's no reason to take it out on me and crush my dreams. How dare you talk about your brother in such a way? Because it's the truth, Father! Gregory is a talentless, stupid, posh parasite incapable of taking responsibility for his own actions. And you're trying to ruin my life for the sake of your son. You've crossed the line, Margaret. Now get out of here. I knew I would regret taking you with me. I should have left you in London. Tomorrow morning, Mr. Mackenzie is taking you back to Cairo. But this is the last straw, Margaret. No more buts. Father. Get out of my sight unless you want me to get really angry. I knew it was useless talking to you. I spin around and run up the stairs. Raging fury engulfs my soul. I need to get away from here to pull myself together. To hell with this! My own father never considers my own feelings, as if I'm nothing at all. Complete with Gregory. Hell no! I just want to do what I love, not marry a man so he can pay the debts of my deadbeat brother. To hell with to hell with balls. To hell with receptions. Rage, resentment literally burns me up on the inside. I really need to calm down. Nothing good will come of this. There's nothing for me to do in the camp right now anyway, so there's nothing for me to scream at anyone over. And I'm sure if I see Duncan again, I'll break. He's a living reminder of Father wanting to send me home and lock me up. I need to be alone. Yes, that's what I need right now. I briskly walk towards the camels, which are resting on the ground, their knobby legs beneath themselves. Climbing onto the first one, I point it away from the camp. Oh boy, she's running away. This is not going to end well. This is not going to end well. It's good Mr. Mackenzie doesn't see this. He'd definitely follow and make things worse. I look back one last time to make sure no one has seen me, then leave. Why can't Father understand I have my own plans? Sometimes I think he sees me as an inanimate object that can be placed anywhere in a room, or slide into a dark corner if it bothers him. But it's not my fault that I'm alive and can't deal with how he treats me in my future. Mr. Green is right. I'm too much like my father, and that's the problem. If I were as gentle and kind as my mother, maybe then. What the hell am I thinking? If I were like her, I'd silently agree to the wedding, thus burying my dreams. Occupied with these thoughts, I fail to notice that the camel has deviated from its course. Looking around, I suddenly realize I can no longer see the camp. It must have wandered beyond some dunes. Jesus. I try to get the camel to turn back around, despite not knowing where to go either. The camel doesn't listen and rather briskly continues deeper into the desert. Realizing I'm no longer in control of the situation, I panic. Then I decide I need to at least stop the camel so it doesn't take me even further. As soon as I pull the bridle, the bloody animal rushes to the side as if I spurred him. Camels may seem slow and clumsy at first glance, but in fact they are able to move at great speed. I'm pretty convinced of that now. But what's worse, I suddenly feel like I'm unable to handle riding one. I slowly begin slipping off, but the camel doesn't appear to slow its run. Hey! Camel, stop it right now! Crap, I'm going to fall. Feeling as if I can no longer keep hold, not even for a little bit. I finally, rather unsuccessfully, plop right onto the hot sand. The camel, however, does not stop. Watching the fleeing animals back, I realize my real problems are just now beginning. I try to get up, but a sharp pain shoots through my ankle, making me scream. No, don't let it be a fracture, please. Oh man, I need to better control my temper. To end up in such a situation due to my own anger is incredibly stupid. I can hardly imagine what Father will say when he finds out what happened. I force myself up. My leg hurts while walking, but it's clearly not a fracture. Most likely just a dislocation. But I'm not particularly happy about it. I don't know where I am, where to go, and I don't even have a flask of water with me. I've never felt so helpless and stupid at the same time. You need to be really talented to end up in a situation like this. Okay, now is not the time or place to flagellate myself. I can do that later. I have to decide what to do first. I won't last long in this heat without water. I know, just a dislocation. I'm thinking they probably meant a sprain. Just a sprain. First, I need to determine how far I am from camp. It would be nice if I could remember how long it took me to get here. Half an hour? An hour? Damn, I can't remember. I was too angry to keep track of time. Okay, it's unlikely I'll figure out the distance. I realize it's pointless to remain here, and so I follow the camel's trail. My leg hurts a lot, so I'm slightly limping. Out of nowhere, from behind a dune, the silhouette of a man on a camel appears. At first, I think it's somebody from our group, but it turns out to be someone much more unexpected. It's the stranger that I saw on the outskirts of Cairo. You need to better learn how to manage your anger. Anger? But how do you... Did you follow me from the camp? The stranger only nods. Not very talkative, much like our first meeting. Where did he come from? Please help me. My father has money. He will pay you if you bring me to the camp. I do not need money. Then just help me. Please. The stranger dismounts and approaches me. You are limping. If you followed me, you probably saw when I fell off that camel. I think it's dislocated. Let me check. Like, seriously, a dislocation, she wouldn't be able to walk, but whatever. Uh-huh. Of course, I know he wants to help, but I suddenly feel very awkward. Wait, what's going on? This mysterious man is going to examine me in the middle of the desert. What an awkward situation. I can fix your leg. Waiting for an answer, the Bedouin simply stands there staring at me. In the end, I lose nothing. On the contrary, if he can help me, then why shouldn't he? Fine. I mean, please do so. I put my tippet on the sand and sit on it, stretching my right leg forward, which seems to have started swelling. The man silently approaches and begins to examine my damaged ankle. He does so quite confidently, but when I scream out a little as it gets too painful, he immediately becomes much gentler. Finally, he says, "Everything will be fine." And then I'm suddenly pulled to my feet. Pain fills my eyes with tears, but almost immediately I realize the stranger has fixed the dislocation. Thank you. The Bedouin says nothing as he helps me onto his camel. Will you take me to the camp? No, your camp is far away, and we have no time. Soon there will be a samum. We need to find shelter. A samum? Oh my god. Despite the fact that I have never seen a sandstorm, what the locals call a samum, with my own eyes, I've heard a lot about them. And judging by what eyewitnesses have said, it'd be best to not linger out here in the open in the middle of the desert. I don't think anybody does not have husbando eyes. Oh my god. I don't ask how the stranger knows about the impending sandstorm. The locals are really good with these things, so he's most likely right. Wait! Denny and the others don't know about the sandstorm. We need to warn them. We do not have time. Besides, the man with different eyes knows what to do. He grew up in the desert like me. So the people in your camp are safe. Well, see, the guy said they don't all have the same husbando eyes. He says they have different eyes, so we're good, right? We're fine. The man with different... Vasif? You know about him? The stranger says nothing. But what if my father goes looking for me and gets caught in the storm? Damn, how could I be so foolish as to leave camp and get lost, especially now? We need to go back, please. Calm down. There is no time. Let it go. As much as I hate to admit it, the strange man is right. Hey, will you tell me your name? I mean, I don't insist, but you've helped me. Shouldn't I know the name of the man I owe my life to? My name is Amin. Thank you for helping me, Amin. My name is Margaret, if you're interested. So where are we going? To a safe place. Yes, I understand that, but I'd like to know more. Fine, as you wish. We ride for about an hour along a path known only to Amin. During this time, he doesn't say a word. I unintentionally think of Duncan, who clearly cannot seem to remain silent for more than 5 minutes. Sometimes I wonder if silence oppresses Mackenzie, and he tries to fill it by any means possible. Amin looks absolutely calm and relaxed, and apparently has no need for conversation. Sometimes it even feels as if he's completely forgotten about my presence. But when I start to slip off the wool blanket covering the camel's back, Amin rather deftly catches me, helping me stay on top, as if I'm always the center of his attention. The thought makes me nervous. Finally, ruins, which are heavily buried in sand, appear on the horizon. We will take shelter under the walls. It will be safer. Looking at the ruined columns and scattered blocks of stone, I suddenly think about the map Father studied in the tomb. What is Twitch being a problem again? Of course, I can't be entirely sure, but a vague suspicion crosses my mind. What are these ruins, Amin? Is this the Temple of Sekhmet? Upon hearing this, Amin suddenly turns to me and looks directly into my eyes. How do you know about the temple? Mr. Green found a mural on which it was shown in Ramessu's tomb. And then my father learned that the temple was somewhere near our campsite. So is it true? Did I guess right? Do you know what was buried in the underground halls of this temple? The artifact that allows for the control of time, as Mr. Green said. Amin thinks for a moment. It is very bad that the camp people know about it. But even worse, the man with different eyes now knows about it too. What's this about Vasif knowing of the temple and artifact? The son of Iblis works for Farouk. If Vasif knows, Farouk will know too. But why should that be a problem? I will tell you, but later. The sandstorm is coming. Amin points in the direction from whence he came, and I see a huge cloud of sand quickly approaching. The sight is so airy, I'm literally speechless. As soon as we near the ruins, Amin stops the camel and dismounts, then helps me down. He removes the baggage from the camel, forces it to lie on the ground, covers it with a blanket, and wraps its face with a rag. I watch his actions, but have no idea what he's doing. I've never seen a sandstorm before and have no idea what to do in such a situation. But for Amin, this seems routine, so precise are his movements. Wrap the scarf around your head. Cover your face. If sand gets into your lungs, you can die. I quickly do everything my companion tells me. After he makes sure I've done everything correctly, he tells me to lay on the ground between the wall and the camel. And he himself does so too. Oh boy! We're getting to the good stuff! BB10! This is exciting! When I lay down, Amin pushes me against the wall with his hand and covers my head with the dick. A fig, not dick, okay? I'm not even drinking! Alright, with a thick woolen blanket. Which was briefly strapped to the... I didn't mean it! Oh shit, I'm turning hot. Alright. now Nixie is crying. Which was previously strapped to the camel's baggage. Finding myself practically within the arms of this total stranger, I'm terribly embarrassed. When I try to move away, Amin says, "Stay close, it is safer." He's like, he's here for it. He's here for this. Alright, so do I stay in Amin's embrace, or do I move away? Shit, I don't know. I'm just... I'm just gonna stay in his embrace. No, I'm doing it. BB10, we're doing it. It's embarrassing, but Amin is right. I better stick with him at least until the storm is over. It takes only a few minutes, and then the storm is upon us. First I hear the sound of the approaching wind, and then our improvised shelter is struck with a powerful stream of air and sand. Although we are covered with a blanket, sand clogs underneath it, getting into my eyes, ears, under my clothes. It's very hard to breathe, and although the cloth on my face protects me from the larger grains of sand, it misses the dust. And I feel a terrible heat coming from outside. I grip the edge of the blanket, well aware that my power isn't enough to hold it in place. Amin pushes the edge of the fabric under him and is now pressing it to the ground with the weight of his body. Listening to the airy howling of the wind, I try not to think about what would have happened if the silent nomad had not found me. I diligently pretend that everything is fine, but my heart is racing. It has been a long time and the storm does not end. It seems it will never end. Strangely, I find myself calmer with the stranger around. It seems like there is nothing that can push Amin off balance. He is so confident and full of dignity. It even seems as if I've known him for a very long time, and yet I haven't even seen his face. I think about Duncan. I wonder if he's worried about me. Maybe he's upset that he won't get his money if I die. I recall that I didn't like Duncan at first, but he's turned out to be quite an interesting man. Maybe I misjudged him. The sandstorm rages for several hours. Wow, we're sitting like this for hours? No, Glenn, don't do it. No, he's not. He is not, I swear. During this time, the storm hits me so warm that I feel completely wrecked. My clothes and hair are covered with a thick layer of dust, and I can hardly imagine how I look now. I want to find water and wash off all this dirt. When the storm stops at last, oh god, the stupid piano music again, I crawl out from under the blanket. I was getting pins and needles from not being able to move for so long. But Amin looks fresh and calm, as always, except he is covered in dust from head to toe, as am I. As if nothing has happened, Amin lights a fire, takes some food out of a bag, and gestures for me to sit. So, are you going to tell me about the temple? I saw a mural in the tomb. It told the story of Pharaoh Amphis, who was killed by his brother who wanted his throne. It said that Ramesu received an artifact from the goddess Sekhmet, one that made him immortal. Say something already. It is true. There was a hexagon made out of heavenly metal, and there was a key that allowed one to control the hexagon. Ramesu always carried the key on his body, because it gave its owner eternal youth and immortality. And the hexagon was hidden in the lower levels of the temple of Sekhmet, so that no one could find it. When the priests buried Ramesu, they destroyed the temple so that no one would be able to reach its underground storage vaults. But without the key, the hexagon is useless. There, in Ramesu's tomb, I saw that his sarcophagus was open from the inside. Was Ramesu really buried alive? Why didn't the priests just take the key and kill him? When the priests came for Ramesu, they could not find the key since no one knew what it looked like. In addition, even if they had found the key and taken it, Ramesu would have remained invulnerable for some time. The fact is, the effect of Sekhmet's magic lasts a long time. That is why they did the only thing that can be done to an immortal being. They locked him deep underground in a place that was impossible to escape from on his own, not without help from the outside. But then, after thousands of years, Farouk, this Iblis, disturbed Ramesu's tomb. What? It was Mr. Farouk who originally opened the tomb for a few years ago? Wait, but why would he? I believe he was looking for the key to the tomb. Farouk most likely found it, as he had hoped, and now he wants the hexagon. And Ramesu? Was he there? I mean his body, but it can't be true that he's still alive. Your father walks into something that does not concern him. He must leave, along with everyone else. But the hexagon must not fall into Farouk's hand. Oh, I'm not... Okay, I'm not... That's not Maggie talking. That's Amin. I always do that. The hexagon must not fall into Farouk's hand. No, I can't believe in these tales. Of course, they're very curious stories to listen to, but people do not live for thousands of years. Time machines do not exist. I'm sorry, Amin, but I don't believe in any of it at all. You may not believe it, Margaret, but the truth remains the truth, regardless of whether you believe it or not. How do you know all of this? Who are you, anyway? It does not matter. You need to sleep. Tomorrow I will take you to your camp. No, wait, why are you guarding the temple? Why would you want to? It is my duty to prevent Pharaoh Ramesu from obtaining the hexagon. If he enters the temple, it will be over. There are only 2 of us left who are able to stop Ramesu if he returns. But the ritual requires 3 priests, therefore we must stop Farouk before he enters the temple. If he finds the artifact and brings Ramesu to it, we will not be able to cast him back into the world of the dead if we cannot find the key. So you're a priest? Not exactly. Only one of the true priests has survived. But I know the ritual. Now, it is time to sleep. Wait! Sleep. Damn it. It seems I'll get nothing more from Amin today. Well, I'll try again tomorrow. If he thinks it'll be easy to dissuade me, then he obviously has it wrong. When Amin goes to sleep, I instantly feel how exhausted I am. Despite the night's cold and the aches in my body from lying on the ground for so long, I fall asleep as soon as I close my eyes. Today Amin wakes me as the sun rises. If he wasn't so calm and unhurried, I would think he'd be so eager to take me. I wouldn't think he'd be so easy. I guess, I don't know. He'd be so eager to take me back to the camp. We are already about halfway there, and I begin to feel restless. I think about my father again. Despite the fact that I don't want him to worry about me, I'd prefer not to see him for a while. I fear my actions will bring me a lot more problems than just an earful from him. I can't even imagine what I would need to do to prevent him from sending me back to Cairo. Unless I buy Duncan out. But I have no money, and there's nothing to stop Father from sending me to the city with him. As if I'm some package. Damn, what the hell? Damn camel. I always knew those animals could not be trusted. Now there isn't anything to keep me from being exiled back at home. And then there's my wedding with Lord Whimsy. Hey, it's spelled Whimsy here, just around the corner. I think I need to get my mind off of things. These thoughts aren't very pleasant. Amin? The nomad is silent, but I feel he's listening. You said there are only 2 people left who can perform the ritual to send Ramasu back to the world of the dead. Who was the second one? And why must there be 3 people? I know I can't. You know the worst part of it all is, you guys, I fucking proof edited this. I did, so it's partially my fault. Actually, this is the very first visual novel I ever proof edited, so. Who was the second one, and why must there be 3 people? Because the ritual involves the reading of the prayers to Anubis, which consists of 3 parts. Each priest needs to read his part of the prayer. And is this prayer recorded somewhere? Or do you know it by heart? I know it, but there are papyri with the text too. You know, I can read ancient Egyptian. If I had to, I could read the text from the papyrus. Terrible job! Oh, come on! This game was much worse before I got done with it. I cleaned it up a lot. A lot. Amin suddenly turns to me. It is the first time I see interest in his eyes. Is this true, Margaret? Amin, why would I lie? I'm an Egyptologist. Amin looks at me for a few moments as if seeing me for the first time, but then turns away and says, Even so, 3 people are needed for the ritual. And I do not think Sotis will agree to participate, not even if threatened by the end of the world. Sotis? Is that the second priest? Meg! Are you alright? Duncan, where did you come from? What do you mean by come from? I've been looking for you all night after the Samum struck. I can see you don't need him. I can see you don't need my help. By the way, isn't this the man who was spying on us at the beginning of our expedition? This is Amin. Amin, is it? But you said you didn't know him. At the time you asked, we didn't know each other. Duncan, Amin saved my life. He found me right before the sandstorm hit. Really? How wonderful. Now get on my camel. I'll take you back to camp. I hope that man didn't do anything to you. What are you implying, Duncan? Is this your man, Margaret? My man? Is this my man? What? No, of course not. This is my bodyguard. He seems very poor at his job. He seems very poor at his job. Okay, I mean, I like you. Oh, you think so? Say that again straight to my face. What the hell is happening? Why is Duncan so angry at Amin? Margaret can travel with me as I have business in your camp, and I'm going there anyway. Really? Well, I don't care. Meg, let's go. Mr. Dawson is waiting. Oh boy. This is where I get to choose. Alright. So I get with Duncan, or I get with Amin. Because this helps determine who I end up with. I'm thinking Duncan. I kind of like Duncan. You know. Why do you always go against what I want, BB10? You want me to suffer. Yeah, I'm going with Duncan. What? Amin is... Cassie, who should I go with? I don't know. Yeah, I say Duncan. Maybe Duncan's right. After all, he is my bodyguard. I should go with him. Besides, he has been looking for me. I mean, stop the camel, please. I want to go with Duncan. Well, I'm going to tell you this now, Glenn. If you want cavernulas, the best chance of us getting cavernulas is Duncan. So, yes. Amin silently stops the camel and helps me dismount. Strange. I think I caught a glimpse of a triumphant expression on Duncan's face. How stupid. It's only a trifle. Although I can't judge him. After all, Mackenzie was looking for me all night. In truth, I'm touched. I didn't expect Duncan to be the only one to rush in search of me. When I'm comfortably on Duncan's camel, we move on. Mackenzie, tell me, was Father livid about my running away from camp? What do you think, Meg? I think I'll be in a lot of trouble. And you'd probably be right. That's not very comforting. Mackenzie. Do you want me to comfort you? Yes, we're gonna think it's the... No, it's not for just for money. Clearly he's catching feels. He's catching feels, BB said. Duncan, I'm serious. So am I. Duncan slyly looks at me, expecting some sort of reaction. When he sees nothing, he moves on. The fact is, it's not your fault, and you don't deserve to be punished for it. It's on me. Actually, it was I, out of my own stupidity, who ran from the camp after my fight with Father. Why would it be your fault, Mackenzie? I'm your bodyguard, and if I fail to protect you, that means I'm not doing my job. Your friend in the veil was absolutely right about that. It's not a veil, Duncan. It's a kufiya. Kufiya, I guess? I don't know how to say that. I don't think either of us are up to snuff for this situation. There's no need to blame each other. My mood is pretty low. I'm already mentally preparing myself for an earful from my father, and then for Mackenzie to take me back to Cairo. Well, I guess I deserve it. When will I learn to control my temper? If not for my need to let it off some steam, I wouldn't have left the camp. Although Father was going to send me to Cairo this morning anyway, I guess you can say I've lost nothing. You look like you're going to be executed. You have no idea how right you are. Come on, cheer up. I'm sure this isn't over. You can talk with Mr. Dawson. Explain your feelings to him. Mackenzie, do you really think I haven't already tried? I have spoken to him so many times, but he doesn't listen. Take it easy. I hear you perfectly. Duncan, what should I do? After all this mess with my disappearance, how can I hope that Father will ever listen to me? I'm sure he'll come up with something. Don't worry. Surely there's got to be some way. You're right. There's no need to despair beforehand. You never know what'll happen. That's the side of you I like. Strong and bold. Tell me, did Father send you to find me last night? No, that was entirely me. Really? But you could have gone in the morning. Well, if I knew you had someone to rescue and warm you, I wouldn't have been in such a hurry, you know. But what if you really needed help? There are times when help is needed right away, and it only takes a few minutes. Yeah, you're right. Thank you for everything. I thank you, too. Me? For what? For the fact it's not boring with you around. To tell you the truth, I'm surprised by Duncan's behavior, but nevertheless, he manages to cheer me up. We spend the rest of the trip to camp talking about different things. Amin, a silent shadow, follows behind. I wonder what business he has in our camp. When we finally arrive in camp, we immediately run into my father. It's no mystery how angry he is. Amin's presence is likely the only thing saving me from my inevitable punishment. Margot, how could you could have died due to your idiotic behavior. Do you not understand that? You are lucky that Mr. Amin, just Amin, that Mr. Amin found you. Please accept my gratitude for saving my daughter, Mr. Amin. The nomad simply nods in response. And you, Margot, you're going back to Cairo tomorrow, and then to London. And you won't persuade me to keep you here. That is my final decision. But Daddy! Your fiancé will be happy you're back early. You need to prepare for the wedding. Daddy, please, listen to me. This wedding will ruin my life. Margot, maybe we shouldn't discuss this in front of strangers. Don't make such a face. You're going back, and that is my final decision. Richard, I need to talk to you. Maggie, you're safe, thank heavens. But how did you survive the sandstorm? It's thanks to Amin. He found me and... Robert, you have something to talk to me about. Ah, yes. Let's go. Please excuse us, Mr. Amin. We won't be long. Father and Mr. Green retreat, leaving me alone with Amin. You are to be married. Gosh, Amin, please don't remind me. You do not love him. If I marry Lord Whimsy, my life will be over. My father wishes it, but it will be the end for me. But if you do not love this man, you should not make such a mistake. To live with an unloved person is the worst punishment in life. I didn't expect to hear this from Amin. I thought he would say something like, if your father says so, you should listen to him. That's what I would expect from Eastern folk, not these words about love. It seems Amin noticed my surprise, so he continues. I had a bride once. I was engaged to a beautiful girl when we were only 8 years old. We were raised with the idea that we were born to share the same fate. And then what? I refused to marry because I did not love her. Where is she now? So, you think my father is wrong? I believe you deserve to choose with whom you spend the rest of your life. This unexpected support so touches me that I don't know what to say. Hey, Amin guy, don't you need to go back into the desert and continue spying on us from there? Duncan! First, I will speak with Mr. Dawson. About what? That is not your concern. Well, why not? Everything is my concern if it's related to the camp. If you were so important, then I would speak with you, not with Mr. Dawson. You do not play a role here, Chatterbox. Really? Here we go. Man. He's not Lord Whimsy. He's, I'm just gonna take, I'm gonna calm Duncan down. I'm gonna calm him down. Duncan, you seem tired. Maybe you need a good night's rest. You haven't slept all evening. It's because I was looking for you, you know. And I'm very grateful for that. Why do you want me to take Amin's side, okay? I'm gonna tell you this, BB10. If you want to see any beefcake chest, I have to be, like, undressed beefcake, I have to go with Amin. So do you want to see undressed beefcake? Because he's the only one you're gonna see like that. Exactly, so I'm going with Duncan. Like I said, I'm doing this for you, he said. I'm doing it for you. But I'd be even more grateful if you didn't start a fight here. Duncan angrily looks at Amin's direction. Okay, you're right. I'm in pretty bad shape. And not in the mood. No, and not in the mood. I'll go rest. Well, that's good. Duncan walks to the side of his tent singing a song. Now that I'm left alone with Amin, I suddenly remember what has been bothering me ever since last night. Amin? Can I see your face? I mean, I don't insist. It's just... Without allowing me to finish, the nomad removes the veil from his face and looks me in the eyes. It makes me very uneasy, as if I have asked for something too personal. But I don't fail to notice that Amin is quite handsome. Even a scar doesn't spoil his appearance. Oh, your scar. Was it an animal? I'm sorry. It was a human, my bride. She wanted to kill me. Oh God, why did I even ask? Oh, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. It does not matter. It was long ago. So, Mr. Amin, what was it you wanted to talk to me about? Come this way. Father takes Amin away, but I don't care. Ooh, why do I keep doing that? I already know they will talk about Sekhmet's temple and that it should be left alone. For a while, I mind my own business until I hear Father gradually raise his voice. Well, I didn't expect anything else. Judging by the fact that I can't hear Amin's voice, he must be as calm and unwavering as ever, unlike my father. Some time later, Father leaves, extremely angered by something Amin had said. Your father is very stubborn. Yes, he is. I hope he will consider my words and make the right decision. You know, I wouldn't hold out much hope for that. Only time will tell. I must go, but I will be near. Then goodbye? Goodbye, Margaret. What hell is this? Locals always interfere with my scientific research. Ignorant nomads. Daddy? Sekhmet's temple must be forgotten forever. Ha! Why won't you entertain the idea that he has reasons for saying that? Reasons, Margot. What reasons could they be other than silly local superstitions? He said that we will have big problems if we don't stop looking for the temple. Even now, after Robert has discovered its exact location. Mr. Green found it? Indeed. He completed his calculations and is now certain he knows where the temple is. I gave my word that I would send you and Mackenzie back to Cairo. If you leave right now, you'll be there by evening. And I, myself, will scout the area using Robert's map. If the temple is there, I shouldn't need to spend more than 2 or 3 hours to confirm it. It is much closer than I thought. Great. You're up to something, Margot. No, of course not. Okay. Hell, I can't leave now. I don't know what Amin will do to protect the temple from intruders. I don't think he'll be very happy when he sees Father and Basif approach the ruins. No. I'll try to negotiate with Mackenzie, perhaps convince him to delay our departure until tomorrow. Maybe I'll meet with Amin again and learn of his plans. Even if I don't have a good relationship with my father, I'd never forgive myself if I didn't try to do something to protect him. About 3 hours later. My father and Basif have already gone in search of the temple. I've made an agreement with Duncan to give me 1 more day at the excavation. Duncan pretended to be ill after his night-long search and unable to escort us to Cairo. So Father was forced to allow me 1 more day until Duncan gets better. Of course, he wasn't very unhappy with this fact, but there was nothing he could do. Besides, Mr. Green flatly refuses to return to Cairo with Basif, and the other herders don't know the area very well. What? Oh. Anyways, I'm really hoping to see Amin again and find out what he plans to do once Father and Mr. Green find the temple's location. I hope he won't think that I am the one who gave the location to my father. Hey, sup, Ginger? Do you know where Mr. Green is? I think he's in his tent. Why do you ask? Well, I don't want him seeing me walk around the camp when I should be dying from tiredness. Why dying? Didn't you just catch a cold after your night in the desert? For me, they're one and the same. So, what are you planning? Still thinking of convincing Mr. Dawson to allow you to stay on the dig? Actually, someone offered to talk to him about me, Miss Mackenzie. And I stand by those words, Meg. I'm on your side all the way. But first, tell me what's on your mind. It's a long story. Let's move into the tent in case Mr. Green really sees you and starts asking questions. So, what's your plan? Of course, I haven't abandoned the idea of staying, but the danger my father may be in if he finds that temple is more important. What are you getting at? Is this somehow related to your exotic friend? Well, in general, yes, but it's not only that. Amin protects the temple from outsiders, but more importantly, he must prevent Mr. Farouk from discovering the temple's location. What's wrong with this Farouk? I tell Duncan everything, including the fact that there's an artifact hidden in the underground chambers of the temple. A time machine? Are you serious? I know it sounds silly, but Amin and Mr. Green truly believe it. Maybe there's a reason for that belief. Actually, this is all sounding very suspicious. I knew you'd get into trouble because of that savage. Duncan. You know, you actually look good in my tent. Okay, here it comes, BB10. Here it comes. Get ready. What? A sudden change of topic unsettles me. What do you mean? Well, there's nobody else around. Just us. So? And you're very beautiful. Oh, really? And your father isn't in the camp right now. Are you trying to suggest something? I knew you'd guess. Mackenzie, I hope this is not what I think it is. And what are you thinking, Meg? That you're trying to seduce me. Actually, I am. Oh God, Duncan, we barely know each other. But we're young, beautiful, and utterly alone in this ruthless world. We can support each other, not only mentally, but also physically. I can't stop, BB10. This is happening. I can't believe my ears. This is the most arrogant method of seduction I have ever heard. So, I made an impression on you. You can count on a friendly kiss only, Mackenzie. Call me Duncan. Mackenzie. Duncan approaches me and I feel his breath on my face. All of this is so unexpected that I'm entirely confused. So, it wasn't a joke? Finally, his lips touch mine and chills run down my back. I feel unexpectedly calm and at peace in Mackenzie's arms. His kisses have me on fire, and my heart is racing like crazy. It's not lewd, it's a kiss. Come on. You know your parents kissed, right? He whispers something in my ear, but I don't hear it, entirely focused on these sensations. Duncan's lips slide lower and stop at my neck. In a fog, I feel him pull off my blouse. Uh-oh. Shit. What the hell am I doing? Why? Now is not the time or place. Gathering the last remnants of my willpower, I push Mackenzie away. I can't. But why not? We barely know each other, and my father. Besides, Mr. Green's in the next tent. I can't think straight, and I struggle to find the words. I have to go. Are you sure? Yes, I am, Mackenzie. I leave the gloom of the tent and walk out into the fresh air, strangely feeling regret. Is it because I let Duncan go too far, or because I didn't stay? I imagine how sloppy I must look right now and hastily smooth my hair and clothes. I know. Unfortunately, because BB10 had me do some weird options at the beginning, we didn't get the they banged scene. Sorry, Gabby. Sorry. I think I had to get I had to do some stuff early on, so we don't bang. Oh well. What the hell am I doing here at the excavation? What kind of an archaeologist am I? Oh, Maggie, how did that varmint Mackenzie get sick right now of all the times? I shouldn't have told Richard that I found the temple. I shouldn't have searched for it. Don't worry, Mr. Green. Tomorrow all three of us will go back to Cairo. Maggie, you don't understand. If Richard finds the temple today, and he surely will, it will be too late for us tomorrow. What are you saying? Everything will be fine, I'm sure of it. I'd like to believe that, but... Oh, fine. Damn, I feel like such a liar. Mr. Green is so close to panicking, and here I am pretending nothing's happening. I'm starting to feel bad about it. Suddenly I hear a noise. Perhaps Father is back already. After a few moments I realize that he is. Margot, we found the temple. You have no idea. It's really there. Richard, you're back already? We need shovels. The whole temple area is buried in sand. Robert, Sekhmet's temple is really there. I'm glad. I didn't lie. I'm telling you. I didn't lie. If you do Amin's route, you get to see him naked, okay? Well, he's covered from the waist down, but you get to see him naked. Alright. Richard, let's go back to Cairo while we still can. Robert, what has gotten into you? I found the temple. I mean, we found the temple. All thanks to you. Yes, sure. If you're so eager to return to Cairo, you'll have to go tomorrow. It's already late now. You don't want to spend the night in the desert, do you? No, you're right. The thief is coming. I have to go. What's wrong with him? He's never been such a coward. Basif, you're just in time. Get everything ready for tomorrow's dig. We're going to have a tough day. As you wish, sir. And inform the herders that tomorrow they will have a lot of digging to do. Tell them to prepare shovels and all they need to clear the ruins of sand. I will be sure everything is done. Great. You may go now. Yes, sir. This is an event worth celebrating. I'll open that bottle of whiskey I brought with me. Where has Robert gone? I want to celebrate with him. Yeah, this is so like Father. He thinks only of himself and is blind to other people's feelings. If I were him, I wouldn't bother Mr. Green right now. He's definitely not in the mood for celebrations. I wonder if Father will ever learn to consider the feelings of others. Or is that impossible? What is Basif doing? Unfortunately, unlike Duncan, I don't speak Arabic, and I can't understand what Basif is talking about with the other herders. But I think he's leaving. The herders, who have received instructions from Basif, begin to gather tools for the upcoming dig, but he seems to have other plans for himself. Basif mounts a camel and rides it in an unknown direction. If the beam is right, we may be in trouble. I've been waiting all day for Amin to show up, but he hasn't, and it's worrying me more and more. But what's even more alarming is that Basif still hasn't returned. If I'm right, and he went to Cairo, then he won't be back until tomorrow morning, even if he travels all night without stopping. Father and Mr. Green are not yet aware of the fact that he's gone. I'm afraid if I tell them, Mr. Green will begin to panic again. Can't sleep? No, that's not it. I think I know what it is then. You're still waiting for news from Amin. And what if the nomad doesn't come? Maybe he's watching Basif now. Yes, that's possible. Do you think Mr. Dawson is in danger because of Amin or Farouk? Meg, no matter what happens, your father chose this fate out of his own stubbornness and short-sightedness. In the end, they won't kill him. I'm not so sure. Anything can happen. Look, let's get out of here together. Just you and me, no artifacts, no nomads, no camels, no other rubbish. Duncan, I can't leave my father like this. He doesn't even understand the dangers he's in. And Sekhmet's artifact. Even if Farouk finds this thing he's looking for, what could possibly happen? You know, sometimes I'm glad I have no family. No need to worry about anyone. You have absolutely no one? I've been alone since I was 10. My mother died and I was completely abandoned. So I lived on the streets and earned money any way I could. Oh God, what can a 10-year-old child do? Oh, you have no idea. Anything from cleaning shoes, selling newspapers, to theft and scams. Duncan's face changes. It seems those are unpleasant memories for him. But what about your other relatives? Other relatives? I only had my mother and no one else. What about your father? Father? Anyone in the city could be my father. What do you mean? My mother was a prostitute. Oh, there we go, the bombshell. Now they're putting it on thick to make us feel bad for this guy. God, why did I ask? Alright, we'll continue listening to him. Poor guy. She was an orphan. She was later sent to work as a maid in a rich house. Then her master seduced her, and her mistress eventually found out. She drove my mother out onto the street. Mom couldn't find a job, and out of desperation, went to a local brothel. Hey, this sounds like Ishgard. She was only 15 when she got pregnant by one of the customers and gave birth to me. My mother and I lived in that place for about 10 years until she was murdered by a client. Oh my God, it's even worse. Then I ran away since the owner of the brothel wanted me to work there as well. It's just so cruel. I can't imagine how you survived it all. I can't imagine it myself. But now I know I can survive anything. Tell me, how did you get here? You're not a local. No, I was born in Glasgow. Scotland? But that's so far away. I just can't sit still for anything, especially when there's nothing holding me down. When I had the opportunity to visit Egypt, I thought it would be a good idea. I heard you speak Arabic. Yes, I've learned it in the 5 years that I've lived here. How old are you? I don't know myself. I think somewhere between 22 and 25. You don't know your own age. Fact is, I don't have any documents, and I don't even know the year I was born. The only date I know is the 1st of May. This is so weird. I'm used to it. I hope you're not mad at me. About what? About what happened in the tent. I allowed myself too much. It was I who allowed you too much, Duncan. That's how it is. That's right, Mackenzie. Then how about allowing me more? Go to sleep, Duncan. Mind you, my tent is always open for frozen girls. Yeah, I'll remember that. Good night. Pleasant dreams. After Duncan disappears into his tent, I sit by the campfire until it eventually dies. Perhaps Mackenzie is right and I shouldn't expect a mean tonight. Glancing back one last time, I retire to my tent. Okay, she shut him down, BB10. She shut him down. In the morning, I awaken to the sound of loud voices. My first thought is that Father had gotten into a fight with one of the herders, but almost immediately realize I'm wrong. Damn, what the hell is going on here? Mr. Farouk, Mr. Ghazi are also here. So that's why Vasif left yesterday. Daddy, what's going on? And here is your charming daughter, Mr. Dawson. Margot, go back to your tent immediately. Good morning, Miss Margaret. What are you doing here, Mr. Farouk? I noticed that Mr. Ghazi no longer looks detached and thoughtful as he was during our first meeting. On the contrary, he's calm and cheerful. What am I doing here is not important. What is important is what you will be doing for the next few days. What do you mean? Now we are going to the Temple of Sekhmet's location, and we will set up camp there. The sooner you begin excavation of the ruins, the better. I am to send my daughter and Robert back to Cairo today. Please allow them to leave, and please allow them to leave, and we will embark for the temple immediately. I am sorry, Mr. Dawson, but nobody here is leaving. Unfortunately, no one can know about your discovery, and I know how talkative archaeologists are. They won't tell anyone, I swear. Of course they will not, because they will remain here. Vasif, make sure everything is ready to transfer the camp soon. Oh wait, that's not me. That's not Dawson. That's Hassan. Vasif, make sure everyone is ready to transfer the camp soon. Yes, sir. Vasif turns to the herders and says something in Arabic, after which they begin to dismantle the tents. Wait! Why do you need the hexagon of Sekhmet? Margot, shut up now! I see Miss Dawson has information she should not know. You're not going to let us go even after the artifact is found, are you? What insight for such a young lady. If that's so, then you don't have to be afraid of us knowing too much. Just tell me, what do you need it for? Farouk thinks for a moment, and then turns to Mr. Ghazi and asks him something. This time he speaks in not his whisper, but a full voice. Maybe he wants advice on whether he should talk about it. Wait a minute. Is that the ancient Egyptian language? Hell, he's speaking with Mr. Ghazi in ancient Egyptian. Is this what I think? Mr. Farouk, I know you unsealed the tomb a few years ago. You found someone, didn't you? What? Margot, what are you talking about? Mr. Farouk looks at me in surprise. Tell me, is Mr. Ghazi actually Ramisu the Pharaoh? I'm shocked by my wild guess, and am literally speechless. Abdul al-Ghazi, hearing his name, tenses up and stares at me intently. Mr. Farouk, recovering from surprise, suddenly begins to applaud me. Mr. Dawson, you should be proud of your daughter. And then he turns to me. You are absolutely right. Before you stands the ruler of Upper and Lower Egypt, the sword and the immortal son of the goddess Sekhmet, the pharaoh Ramisu. Damn it all! I was hoping my guess was wrong, although Mr. Ghazi spoke only in ancient Egyptian, so it was likely. What? Mr. Ghazi is Ramisu? The same? What nonsense! The story of Pharaoh Ramisu is just a fairy tale. I am afraid, Mr. Dawson, that this time it is you who has gotten it wrong. Realizing that Mr. Farouk's attention has switched to my father, I directly approach Ramasu. I hope that I speak ancient Egyptian well enough for him to understand me. The fact is the phonetics of the language were lost, and then restored based on the phonetics of the Coptic language, which descended from ancient Egyptian. Why do you need Sekhmet's artifact, Ramasu? The Lord should not be addressed in this manner. Farouk is right, but I don't want to call Ramasu by his full title. In the end, he is no longer pharaoh, and his time is long gone. Ramasu makes a sign with his hand, forcing Farouk to shut up. But sir... Silence, servant. Farouk humbly bows his head. Woman, you behave too boldly. I know, so why do you need the hexagon? Why should I answer you? I can speak your language. Are you not bored with talking to only Farouk? In the time you have spent in Cairo, I do not think you have met many people who speak it. Ramasu calmly listens to me and then turns to leave. It seems I'm unable to get him to talk. Wait! I am sure the great son of Sekhmet has a special plan not suited for mere mortals. Ramasu hears this, smiles despite the fact that his eyes remain cold, and then the former pharaoh stops. Oddly enough, it seems it wasn't my flattery, maybe my persistence. It is simple. I will go back to a time when I still ruled Egypt. It is where, if it were not for the treachery of the priests, I would have conquered not only the land surrounding Egypt, but the whole world. You may not know this, but the world is much bigger than it was thought in your time. My descendant has told me, and even showed me your maps, and thanks to you, it is my desire to gain power over all lands has grown stronger. Alright, that sentence was screwed up. Descendant? Ramasu looks at Farouk condescendingly. So that's why Farouk resembles Ramasu, as I noticed when we first met. Surprisingly, it's still reflected after so many generations. Even after thousands of years, my lineage stands strong. And one of my descendants released me from the dungeon I was buried in, with no light, no food, no ability to reach the surface. I must go back and avenge my suffering. And what will you do if you go back to the past? I will kill the priests before they reach me, and then I will raise an army to continue my conquest. If Ramasu returns to the past, it could change our reality. It's hard to imagine what might happen to our world if Sekhmet's son gains so much power. Why do you think your army will not be crushed by your neighbors? Ramasu smiles darkly, but remains silent, as if he's deciding whether or not to tell me. I will not go back empty-handed. But you do not need to know everything, red-haired woman. Okay, it seems that is as much as I can get from him. But then at least... But where are Duncan and Mr. Green? Ramasu, losing all interest in me, only shrugs. Apparently these names mean nothing to him. We tied Mr. Mackenzie after he started a fight with my people. He is in the tent, thinking over his behavior. And Mr. Green is here, somewhere. No, I can't take it anymore. Farouk, I know none of us will survive once the temple is unearthed. Mr. Green, no need for panic, please. I can't be here anymore. That bastard Vasif follows me everywhere. It was he who killed Grayson, the leader of your last expedition. Rudolph Grayson talked too much. As it turned out, he cannot be trusted with the temple search. I knew it! I knew it! Suddenly, Mr. Green rushes towards the camels. It appears he is going to run. Mr. Green, stop immediately! I am not to be fooled, Farouk! I'm leaving right now! Hassan al-Farouk signals to Vasif, who pulls out a gun. Oh boy! Yes, Barf Day stream is gonna go a little bit longer. I'd like to finish the story today, so... In only a moment, it's over. Oh no! Mr. Green! Robert! Oh God! His father immediately rushes to his friend's body. There's only one thought spinning in my head. This is all my fault. Mr. Green was killed because of me. If I hadn't asked Duncan to play sick, we would have returned to Cairo yesterday and Mr. Green would still be alive. God, If only I knew how serious this all really is. But he warned... Mr. Green knew more than he said. Why did you do it? Mr. Green wouldn't have been able to escape anyway. He would be useless in the field. With his tendency to panic, he would be but a burden for our work. I rid us of the ballast. Bastard! How could you? He worked for you! How much blood is on your hands? None. It was Vasif who shot him, not me. Father rushes in Farouk's direction. Who knows how it would have ended if Vasif hadn't caught him in time. A couple of blows to the jaw and Father is on the ground. You are no longer young, Richard. Do not act a hero. Think about your daughter. If you touch her... Silence. Soon we will go to the temple, so be kind. Ready everything you need for the excavation. And what about Robert? We can't just leave him here. Yes, we can. And yes, we will. My master has awaited long enough. We have no time for such ceremonies. What? Is nothing sacred to you? Hurry, Richard. You will pay for this. I do not think so. God, I'm getting... October? What? What, Trevor? When they finally leave, I slump to the sand, unable to comprehend what just happened. Mr. Green's body is lying nearby, the sand around him soaked red with blood. I try not to look at him, but I can't stop thinking this would not have happened if I hadn't delayed our departure. I look at my hands. They're noticeably shaking. Never before have I felt as I do now. This is the law of life. All who are born must die sooner or later. But not you. My lips are dry, and my voice quiet and hoarse. But not me. I am God, and gods do not die. You are not God, Ramasu. Ramasu comes closer to me, and with a single motion pulls me to my feet, as if I weigh nothing. Damn, he's so strong. Superhuman strength. Is this all from the key's magic? If I am not God, then why am I still alive? Without waiting for an answer, he turns and walks away. Suddenly, I notice Duncan being dragged from one of the tents. He looks, frankly speaking, horrible. Duncan, what happened? Nothing much. They just spoiled my look a little. What happened here? I heard gunshots. Instead of answering, I point to Mr. Green's body. Holy. So the Nomad was right. It's all because of me. Mr. Green would be alive if I had gone to Cairo. What? This has nothing to do with you. Farouk's men could have killed him anywhere. He knew too much. If anyone is to blame in this situation, it's Mr. Dawson. He's the one who started this mess. Duncan, what are you talking about? How many warnings did your father ignore before this all happened? Enough talking. It is time to go to the excavation. And, Mr. Mackenzie, keep in mind, one more fight and it will be your last. Miss Dawson, please hurry. What are you talking about, bad game? It's not a bad game. This is actually quite a fun story, I think. Thanks, Trevor. Mackenzie, I'm scared. What do we do now? My head is a jumbled mess with no ideas at all. Don't worry. I'm sure we'll figure something out together. Whatever happens, remember that I'm always here. Thank you. Well, shall we go? We don't want to make Farouk angry. Yes, you're right. Looking back at Mr. Green's body one last time, I decide to follow Duncan. Father is sitting on a camel, and by the expression on his face, it's easy to see that he's genuinely remorseful. Well, it's not surprising. Mr. Green was his best friend, after all. This is not the worst. I actually think this is a fairly well-written visual novel. Not to mention Otome, but it is and I'm talking about like the plotting and everything, and the fact that they I really thought it was great how they use a lot of the ancient Egyptian history and all that culture and all that stuff, and all the things having. I thought it was really well researched, what I'm saying. So, anyways. Father is so deep in thought that he doesn't even notice me. I decide it's better not to disturb him now, and so try to stay close to Duncan. A few hours later. When we finally arrive at the ruins of Sekhmet's temple, I'm expecting to see Amin here. He couldn't have disappeared after all his talk about not letting Farouk and Ramasu obtain the hexagon. To be honest, after Mr. Green's murder, I now fear that Amin may have suffered the same fate. It's already been a couple of days since we last heard from him. They're not all my husbandos, okay? But I will have you know that one of my favorite routes in this is the route where you actually romance the bad guy. That is one of my favorite, I love romancing bad guys. So, and actually it's done really, really well in this game. But we're not going to get it because we're totally on the Duncan route. But still, very, very bad guy romance in the game. Cassie, go read it. So, I do. Now that I've recovered a little from today's events, I regain all of my fighting spirit. No, I'm not going to die here in the sand, but that is our fate after we clear the temple ruins and Ramasu gains access to the artifact. Well, we'll die anyway if the son of Sekhmet returns to the past, and I'm sure Farouk will try to secure the ritual to the best of his ability. But if we're dead, then no one will be able to stop Ramasu. Once the new camp is set near the ruins, we are immediately sent to clear the entrance of the sand. Farouk orders every man to go, including the herders, but is taken by surprise when I grab a shovel and join everyone. I wanted to tangle the bad guy, but I actually really liked really liked his romance, because it's not like in other Otome where the bad guy all of a sudden turns, he changes and becomes this paragon of innocence. No, he's just fucking bastard, and you just end up marrying the bastard. That's what it is. I don't know what he's thinking, but I'd rather be among my people than by his side, even though it will be difficult to work under the burning sun. Yes, he's still an asshole. If I fall for an asshole, I want him to stay an asshole. At least to everybody else. He needs to be great. He needs to be I need to be the one person he's not an asshole to. So, Ramasu stands aside and watches us work. I'm actually glad he's not trying to help us. With his physical strength, he could greatly speed up the process of clearing the ruins, therefore quickly bringing about the moment of our death. Father is unusually silent today, but I know it is best to not disturb him. He carries out his part of the labor purely mechanically, as if in a trance. Duncan, on the contrary, is diligently pretending that everything is okay. He even tries to cheer me up, but it doesn't help much. Miss Dawson, I do not know why you are so stubborn. You seem very exhausted. You do not have to work as everyone else. It's my decision, Mr. Farouk. I don't have to make excuses for it. Well, that is your right. Tell me, do you understand that if Ramasu goes back and resumes his conquest, then the world as we know it will be destroyed? You must realize that there will be no you, no me. It will be something completely different. And given Ramasu's greed for power and his immortality, the new world may be awful. I am well aware of this, Miss Dawson, but you are wrong about one thing. Yes, the world will change as well as the people, but I will not. Ramasu has promised that in exchange for my help, he will take me with him to the era of ancient Egypt. And I will finally see all the things that I previously only heard or read about. You mean he can bring someone with him to the past? Yes, he can. You, as an Egyptologist, must understand me. Would you not want to witness the greatness of the time that you have spent so many years studying? The thought of it excites me, but the fact that Farouk is ready to destroy our world so easily snaps me out of it. Here's the thing. I actually think that the characters' motivations in this game were for a short little visual novel, ultimate visual novel, the characters' motivations in this game were they were really well developed. And it makes sense why Margaret might possibly decide that she wants to run off with a bad guy. But yeah, I'm just saying, I gotta give it more reading. And for that, he would sacrifice our entire civilization? For Egypt? For Ramasu? He's a monster. No, he is not, Miss Dawson. He is a god. Since I was a child, I knew of the legend, which had been passed down through our family for generations, that our ancestor was a great pharaoh, a true son of the goddess of war. That is why I became an archaeologist. It was because I believed that this legend was not an empty fairy tale, that it had some truth in it. After many years of searching, I finally found my ancestor's tomb, but what I found there exceeded all my expectations. You cannot imagine the feelings I experienced when I saw the dried and nearly mummified body of Ramessu at the door. But when I realized that he was still alive, my delight knew no bound. It took several years to restore his body, which was in a terrible state. And all these years I have kept him hidden in my home, until the day he was ready to go back into the world. When the pharaoh Ramessu was finally able to speak, he told me that there was a way to send him back into the past. He told me that there was a temple with a certain relic near his tomb. Since then, I had sent many expeditions to the area until one of them finally succeeded. You're a madman, Mr. Farouk. Madman? Not at all. I simply want to see the era I have been in love with since I was a child. And besides, Ramessu promised me the post of his advisor, so I will be his right hand in this new world. Something tells me that this dude ain't making it to the past with Ramessu. Something tells me. Damn, Farouk is determined. I don't think I can change his mind. Ah, yes. Keep in mind, I have ordered Vasif to shoot anyone who tries to escape. Wonderful. I've always dreamt of dying young. Mr. Farouk smiles and slowly walks towards Ramessu, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I hope Amin does something before it's too late for us in this world. Later that night. In the evening, we all collapsed from exhaustion. We were unable to completely clear the sand from the temple's entrance. I lie in my tent and listen to the sounds coming from outside. Farouk's men patrol the camp, occasionally exchanging words with each other in Arabic. Hell, I'd give anything right now to know where Amin is and what he has planned for the artifact's protection. Maybe I should try to escape. I could look for Amin outside. I'm sure the guards won't let him enter the camp. I'm not sure. Actually, Vasif said that Mr. Farouk ordered him to shoot anyone caught trying to escape the camp. But maybe it's worth a look around the campsite in the least. Or is it better to just stay here? Who knows what Vasif and his goons might do? If I leave the tent, will it be seen as an attempt to escape? Well, hell, what am I supposed to do now? Oh boy. Okay, here's the deal. If I run away, it's gonna be a bad ending. I'm gonna die, so I'm gonna stay in the tent. I know you would like for her to die, BB10, but no, I'm staying in the tent. Stay in the tent. I wonder if Mr. Farouk really gave the order to shoot anyone who tries to escape. For obvious reasons, I don't want to risk it. At this pace, clearing the temple will take another couple of days, and that should give him some time to come up with a plan. I hope tomorrow I'll be able to talk to my father and Duncan without Farouk noticing. Even though the cold of night keeps me awake, I feel very exhausted after all that work. Falling asleep, I hear a strange, barely audible whisper. Margaret, I need you. Amin? The nomad puts a finger to his lips, gesturing for silence. Amin, Ramessu is here, and he will soon have the hexagon. Yes, I know. I followed Vasif and saw him bring Ramessu and Farouk to the camp. Come, I need your help. What? What do you mean? We cannot fight Ramessu out in the open as we are too few. Our best hope for the ritual. The summon of Anubis. It is the only thing that can stop Ramessu. But there is a catch. We need 3 people for the ritual. Yes, I recall. I can read a part of the prayer if you need. It is not about you, it is about the priest. I am afraid I failed to persuade Sotis to help us. Failed? But how can someone refuse help in such a situation? It is too long to explain. Come with me. Amin takes me by the hand and heads for the tent's exit. Wait, what about the others? If we stop Ramessu, all will be saved. Come, time waits for no man. Yes, you're right. I grab my tippet and glasses, and we leave the tent. Amin's camel is waiting for us outside. The guards are nowhere to be seen. Amin helps me onto the camel, then begins to climb up himself, when suddenly we hear heavy footsteps behind us. Oh no. My master does not like intruders. Asif reaches for his gun, but isn't fast enough. A fight breaks out, and Amin is able to knock the weapon out of Asif's hands. But Asif, with the bigger and more powerful physique, has a clear advantage. There are a few moments that I fear Asif might win, or that the noise of the fight will attract other guards, but they're probably sleeping after a hard day's work, since they were also taken with us. Finally, Amin is able to strike a powerful blow to Asif's head, and he falls to the ground, knocked out. He's dead? No, the jackal is just unconscious. We need to leave. I don't ask Amin where we are going. I don't know the area at all, and would gain nothing from the knowledge. I want to sleep so badly, and keep finding myself leaning against the nomad's back. At first I feel awkward, but when I realize Amin doesn't seem to care at all, I relax. I feel safe with Amin. Falling asleep, I think about how different Amin and Duncan are. One is calm and silent, and the other is overly active and talkative. The only thing they have in common, they each have secrets associated with their pasts. I wish I was with Duncan right now. Strange, but I've become so attached to him that I've even begun to appreciate his sense of humor and the strange way he starts conversations from afar. I never thought I would be interested in such a man. He really isn't my type. Occupied by my thoughts, I don't realize how quickly I fall asleep. Yes, she can wish, okay? She's caught some feels, right? When I awake, it's already morning. As if sensing that I'm awake now, Amin says, "We will be there soon, Margaret." And as he said, in less than a half hour, we see an oasis on the horizon. I haven't seen trees or other vegetation in such a long time. I feel real joy gazing upon the green crowns of the treetops. Is this the place where the person we meet lives? In response, Amin only nods. You said there is only one priest. What happened to the others? They are dead. Amin, how many times do I need to repeat myself? I'm not going to help you. If this wretched world dies, then so be it. You must not let hatred control you. How many years have passed? I remember everything like it was yesterday. Get out of here and take this woman with you. Actually, no. You can leave her here. More importantly, you get out. Margaret can read ancient Egyptian. She can help us perform the ritual to destroy Ramasur. Us? Oh no, my prince, not us. I'm not doing anything for you. Do not call me that. The title has long been meaningless. Okay, hold on. These sounds are so... It didn't change anything! Hold on. It didn't change anything. Oh my god. Alright, hold on. There we go. Okay. Admit it. You thought you were too good for my sister. It's because of your arrogance Kia is dead. It is not my fault, Sotis. Kia chose her own fate. Please understand, she would have been miserable with me. Kia deserves a man who loved her. But she loved you. I am sorry. I wish she killed you. Sotis, I beg of you, leave behind the hatred of the past, at least for a time. You are the only one who fully knows the ritual and is able to perform it correctly. We desperately need your help. I said I'm not going to help you. This conversation is over. Oh boy. And this woman is the last hope for our world? Damn it, it's even worse than I thought. I will talk to her again. Wait, maybe I should try. Uh-oh. BB10! He's gonna like this romance. You? Well, I'm an outsider, so if she won't listen to you, maybe she'll listen to me. I think you are right. Then stay here. I need to bring the papyri for the ritual. And be careful with Sotis. Do not let her become excessive. Excessive? How? Well, never mind. In fact, I have no idea what I'm going to say to Sotis, but there's no harm in trying. Still, there's no other way, and we can't do this without her. I walk around the oasis in search of the priest, knowing she couldn't have gone far. As expected, I find her rather quickly. What do you want? I just want to talk. So Amin thinks you're better than my sister. Wait, what are you talking about? There's nothing going on between Amin and I. I swear that he is absolutely uninterested in me. Really? Huh. You don't know Amin very well. I see the way he looks at you. Damn. Sota's trying to confuse me, or does she really notice something that I don't? I did! There's no oh, is it the music? Okay, hold on. It is the music volume! Okay, here we go. Let's turn this. There we go. Okay. I am sure he's absolutely not interested in me. Besides, there's... Oh, I messed that up. There's another man that I like. It would be fun to see Amin end up in the same situation as my sister. When you love someone, but that person doesn't care about you. So sad. Tell me why you refuse to help us. Don't you care that everything will be destroyed if Ramasu has his way with time? I really don't care what happens. I'm not doing anything. Is this all because of Amin? Not just him. Oh boy, here we go. Your sister. What happened to her? Why do you blame Amin? Why are you so curious? If you don't want to answer, that's up to you. Well, why not? I'm always happy to talk with new people. Amin and Kia were engaged since they were 8 years old, and were to be married as soon as they reached adulthood. But the older they got, the more Amin pulled away from her. For my sister, he was the meaning of her life. When he broke the engagement, she flew into a rage and tried to kill him. When she didn't, she killed herself. She couldn't be saved, yet Amin somehow survived. God, what a horrible story. Do you really believe Amin is responsible for Kia's death? After all, he almost died himself. Sotis oddly grins and goes silent for a few moments, gazing into my eyes as if pondering something. No, I don't think he's really to blame. He's merely the walking reminder of my sister's death. I don't want to see him, not ever again. Alright. Tell me, what happened to the other priests? Why are you the only one left? It's Vasif's doing, Farouk's mercenary. After Farouk learned of the priest's existence, those who prevented Ramasu from succeeding in his plans, he sent people headed by Vasif to kill them all. Except for me, I was wounded but survived. It took me weeks to bury all of the dead. In the end, I was left all alone in this oasis, without a family, without a sense of existence. And where was Amin during that time? What does this have to do with Amin? He's not a priest, not one of us. He wasn't even aware when it happened, and when he found out, it was already too late. I heard you called Amin a prince. So what? What did you mean by that? I meant exactly what I said. Amin is a prince, a descendant of the pharaoh Amphis. Oh, of course, of course. I think I've heard that name before. Wait, isn't that Ramasu's brother? Yes, you're right. And you thought that only Ramasu left descendants. To tell you the truth, the thought never crossed my mind. Sotis, please help us. Soon people from the camp will clear the entrance to the temple and Ramasu will reach the hexagon. We must stop him before it's too late. I already told you that I don't care what happens to this world. Sotis, what can I do to get you to agree? What can you offer me? don't know. What do you want? You know, I have been living here alone for so long, almost like a hermit. And I rarely have visitors, especially ones as pretty as you. I don't quite understand what you're getting at. I think I can help you if you'll agree to brighten up my dull, lonely leisure. Crap. This is not what I'm thinking, is it? If it were Duncan, I would immediately go through with the proposal and spend the night together. But she's a woman. So, what are you thinking? Yes, I remember this too. Sotis comes close and fixes a strand of my hair. I think I don't really understand you. And I think you understand me just right. Damn. But what about Duncan? I do love him. And besides, we're not even alone here. Amin's somewhere near. Sotis comes closer and whispers right into my ear. I watched as he mounted his camera. I think he went to the sanctuary to retrieve the papyri for the ritual. If so, then we have about an hour. Oh god. I don't know which one. No. I think, do I have to accept her conditions? She does. Okay, I don't know how she loves him. She likes him better than her fiance. Shit. If I push her away, I think we might actually die. But if I try to persuade her... Oh, shit. I better... I'm saving. I'm saving. Shit. Alright. Shit. What do I do? Oh, alright. I did save. I just saved. I'm gonna try to persuade her anyway. Sotis, my father is being held hostage by Ramasu. There's little time left. As soon as the Temple of Sekhmet is unsealed, all the archaeologists, including my father, will be killed. Maybe that Ramasu's ritual won't work, but my father will die either way. You've lost a loved one and know how it feels. Why are you telling me this? I just want you to understand how I feel. This is my only chance to help my father. But it's not just about him. Among the archaeologists, there's also a man I love. If they both die, then I don't know how I'll survive this. Please help me. You're probably right. Family is the only important thing in this world. Forget what I said before. So you will help me? Yes, you definitely have the gift of persuasion. Just don't let Amin come near me. I can change my mind. In the end, there is no difference for me. Live or die, I don't really care if Ramasu carries out his plan or not. Call it my weakness for pretty faces such as yours. Thanks? Tell me, what is in the papyri Amin went to retrieve? Is it the written prayer of Anubis? Not only that, it also fully describes the course of the ritual, the sequence of actions, gestures, words. But don't worry, your part only consists of standing in the right place and speaking the right words. Can you really read the papyrus? Of course. Not all Egyptologists can read ancient Egyptian, but it's my specialty as a linguist. So you're coming with us to Sekhmet's temple? No, you will go together with Amin. Wait, but you promised. I know what I promised. Don't worry, I'll be there at the right time. Since I'm now the chief priestess, or should I say, the last priestess, I will need to prepare for the ritual, and it will take time. I would suggest that you two stay here and wait until I finish my preparations, but I am afraid that Amin's presence will ruin my will to help. Although, you may stay, and then go with me. I think I'll go with Amin. I thought so. Okay, I have some things to prepare, so I need to go. You can bathe until Amin arrives. If you wish, of course. Sotis is gone, leaving me alone near a small waterfall. I immediately take her advice and go for a swim in the cold water. God, how I've missed this. It's not long before Amin returns from the sanctuary along with the papyri. I brought all the texts. Without a word, he hands me a few old pages, nearly crumbling in his hands. Oddly enough, the writing is pretty well visible. Excellent. By the way, I came to an agreement with Sotis. She will help us. I hope she did not try anything. It's all right. I told her that my father is being held captive by Ramasu, and she agreed to help. It seems she's very touchy about things such as family. Yes, she is. You have seen the temple. How long will it be until they unearth the entrance? I'm not entirely sure, but maybe another couple of days, including today, if Ramasu doesn't assist. I remember how easily he lifted me off the sand without straining himself at all. I wonder where Ramasu could have hidden the key so that the priests who came after him couldn't find it. I noticed he wears a ring with a large stone on his finger. Do you think that could be the key? It is not likely. Otherwise, the priests would have already taken it and killed him. Yes, perhaps you're right. Okay, let's not worry about that now. I'll try to study the papyri. I don't want to let you down at the most crucial moment. I am sure you will be fine. I hope so. I take my fairly scratched glasses out of my skirt and stare at the hieroglyphs, but my thoughts are far away. You know, I'm so worried about my father. Of course, we're not on the best of terms, but I love him anyway, even though I don't always understand his motives and feelings. I'd like to know how he's doing right now. You do not need to worry. Besides, you cannot do anything right now. He is too far away. You see, Vasif killed Mr. Green, and now I can't help but fear the same thing will happen to my father. I remember what happened that day. The sound of the gunshot, his falling body, blood-red sand. I had known Mr. Green since I was a child. He was always a cheerful, slightly pensive little chub. Little chub. Who would wiggle his mustache in a funny manner, the complete opposite of my strict and determined father. A lump forms in my throat from the memories. Vasif murdered him right before my eyes. I don't think I'll ever be able to forget it. The excitement from all of these adventures must have shaken my nerves as I begin to feel tears gather in my eyes. I keep pretending that I'm fine, but Amin, as if he senses my condition, says, "Sometimes even the strongest person needs to cry." Tears cleanse the soul and soothes the pain. I'm not gonna hide my feelings. I'm just gonna bust it all out. I'm trying not to think about everything, but I'm still anxious. I can't focus even on trivial things like reading this papyri. I take off my glasses and lay them aside, realizing that I won't be able to work in this state. Everything will be alright, Margaret. Amin embraces me. What? How did we get to this point? I thought I'm supposed to get with Duncan. Oh my god. Margaret's a hussy. Oh no. Amin embraces me and gently holds me to his chest. This is unexpected. But feeling his support, I almost immediately relax. Without saying a word, I freeze and close my eyes. Amin too is silent. For a few minutes, I don't think about anything and just listen to the beating of his heart. Amin's a good person. He's a good friend. It's strange how I've become attached to him so quickly. It's a pity that Duncan doesn't like him. I hope Mackenzie is alright. Fully reassured, I suddenly realize how ambiguous the situation seems. Jesus. Besides, I remember Sota saying that perhaps Amin feels something towards me. Oh, I'm really beginning to feel awkward. Clumsily breaking from his arms, I thank Amin for the support. He simply nods instead of answering. It was just a hug, okay? He was supporting her in a moment of need. There was nothing untoward. You hear me, BB10? There was nothing untoward. That's one of my favorite words, though. I think I'll try looking at the papyri. When are we going to the temple? We should be there by the time the entrance is cleared. The ritual must be performed when Ramasu is already inside. Wait, what if Ramasu will already be in the temple? But if Ramasu will already be in the temple, how do we get there without attracting his attention? Besides, Farouk and Vasif will also be there, not to mention the rest of Ramasu's men. That is a problem. We must enter the temple and hide there until Ramasu removes the key to open the hexagon. While he is protected by Sekhmet's gift, even Anubis cannot take him into the afterlife. And for that, we will need to wait for the start of the ritual. But if we don't manage to catch him in the right moment, it's over. Amin gives the faintest of nods, and we will be on our way as soon as it is dark. We will arrive at the temple before daylight. I see you brought the papyri. Excellent. Sotis roughly pulls the papyri from my hands, not particularly worried about their condition. Quickly reviewing the text, she picks out a few pages and hands them to me. This is what you will need to read during the ritual. And she literally throws the remaining pages at Amin, which he catches with surprising speed for his size. Then Sotis hugs me around the waist and whispers into my ear. I'll tell you how and what you will need to read. Sotis, keep your hands to yourself. What will you do about it? I break from her embrace and move away, just in case. Why do I have the feeling Sotis did that on purpose just to annoy Amin? Let's not fight. We now have one goal, to thwart Ramasu's plan and send him into the afterlife. We don't need distractions. Fine. Then let's proceed to study the ritual. I try to memorize the sequence of actions as best as I can, as well as everything else that my role in the ritual entails. In the end, Sotis and I continue until dusk. Finally, I'm free and can breathe easier. Strange, but Amin is nowhere to be seen, although it's already time to leave. Oh boy. Oh boy, do I pay? Hold on, save. I feel like I need to save. Wait! Yes, I'm searching for Amin. I know what's gonna happen. BB10, close your eyes. I decide to stretch my legs and look for Amin. Since there are a few places for him to go, I head to the waterfall. And almost immediately see that he's there. Yes. Apparently, he has also decided to cool off in the cold water, and likely thought it would take us much more time to study the ritual than it actually turned out to be. Damn, this is so awkward. I shouldn't be here. Perhaps I should pretend I didn't see anything and quickly go back unless he notices me. I think I'll just wait until he comes back himself. He hardly needs a reminder that we need to leave for Sekhmet's temple to stop Ramasu, since things are not easily forgotten, so he'll be here soon. As it turns out, I'm right and the wait is over. After just a few minutes, Amin finally appears. I think to myself that Amin looks pretty good without the traditional kufiya on his head. Are you ready? If you are ready, let us go. We need to reach the camp before dawn as not to attract attention to our arrival. Sotis said she will travel separately. Do you really think she'll arrive on time? We have no choice but to trust her. Now, let us hurry. I don't ask for much time. The only thing I need to take with me is the papyrus with the prayers texts in my classes, and I already have them. The way back to the camp seems unending. I want to get there soon. I'm really worried about my father and Mackenzie. I'm nervous about the impending confrontation with Ramasu, but I'm happy to think that soon I will finally be able to see and embrace Duncan again. Amin is silent, as always, but it's a good thing. His silence allows me to get my head on straight. Before reaching the temple, Amin stops the camel and we dismount in an effort to enter the camp, without attracting the attention of the guards. Even from here, it's apparent that the former herders, who are actually Farouk's men the entire time, are patrolling the area near the tents. Amin? Do you have some kind of plan for invading the temple tomorrow? We need guard clothing. And how are we supposed to get that? We can't just take it from those armed men. We will try. You're kidding me. No. Damn. Okay. I hope you know what you're doing. I will need your help. Well, what should I do? There are 3 guards in the camp now. 1 I can see from here. He is sleeping near the entrance of the temple. 2 are patrolling the camp. And your task is to distract these 2 in some way. What comes next will be up to me. I look in the direction of the camp where 2 sullen-faced Arabs are wandering through the area, exchanging words occasionally, and the hands of each is a weapon. Oh. Amin probably wants to take them both out at the same time, because if he does so individually, the second guard will likely raise the alarm. Okay, I'm in. Thinking about what I'm about to do, I become chilled inside. I try to calm myself with the thought that this is the only way, and that Amin has everything under control, but it doesn't help. Then I'm going? Wait. Be careful, Margaret. I do not want anything to happen to you. I'll try my best. Trying not to make any noise, I quietly pass into the area with the tents. The first thing that catches my eyes are a bunch of crates in the middle of camp, which weren't there before I fled. Perhaps they were delivered from Cairo yesterday. Most of them are nailed shut, but a few covers are loose. I look around. Amin is nowhere to be seen. He's probably waiting for me to distract the guards. But my curiosity gets the better of me. Carefully sliding the lid off of one of the crates, I look inside. Damn, it's a weapon. I open a second crate and find some papers. Looking through them closely, I realize these are blueprints, schemes, and instructions for building different kinds of firearms. Separately, there is a recipe for gunpowder. But what is even more strange and unsettling is that some of the texts have already been translated into ancient Egyptian. There's everything from drawings of huge bronze cannons, which have long been obsolete, to the instructions for creating dynamite. So this is what Ramasu meant when he said that he would not return empty-handed. He has decided to not only take Farouk back to his time with him, but modern weapons as well. And he knows that even if he manages to teach his soldiers how to use these new weapons, the ammunition won't last forever. Therefore, he has decided to take with him everything he needs to create counterparts in ancient Egypt. Hell, Ramasu is insane in his lust for blood. A god? Yeah, right, a god of war. If he puts these weapons and technology to use, he will easily conquer the entire world, since he'll be fighting against soldiers with swords, bows, and spears in that time. Suddenly I notice that one of the guards is nearing me. I attempt to hide, but then remember my task should be the opposite. Besides, I need to distract both of them at the same time. I slowly walk out of the shadows into a spot lit by the moon, so that they are able to see me. I hope they don't shoot. Hey! Hey, mister! As if it's nothing, I wave my hand to the one closest to me. He immediately moves towards me. Excellent. What am I going to say? I don't know Arabic. I walk here, I got lost. You understand? I walked desert and now back. Damn, I feel really stupid. I try to move a little to the left so the other guard notices me as well, but suddenly the first pulls out his gun, letting me know I better not move. But luckily, he calls the second guard himself. In that moment, as they are both near me, I catch a shadow rush behind them. Amin. He emerges out of nowhere and slams the guards' foreheads together so forcefully, I think I hear cracking. It looks like someone is going to have more than just an ordinary concussion. The two guards fall to the ground unconscious. Do we need to change into their clothes? Yes. And what do we do with the bodies? We can't leave them here. Instead of answering, Amin pulls a length of rope off of a nearby tent, checks its durability, and then ties each guard separately. Find an empty tent. I quickly check my former tent to be sure no one is inside. When I return to Amin, he hands me the clothing of one of the mercenaries. Taking it, I immediately inform him that my tent is empty. Amin silently nods. He begins dragging the Arabs inside, trying to move as quietly as possible. Finally, he gags them so they're unable to call for help once they awake. In disgust, I pull the dirty mercenary outfit over my regular clothes. I must look pretty ridiculous in this. It's clearly too big for me. Carefully, so as to not wake the guard sleeping nearby, I inspect the temple entrance to see if it's been cleared. Hell, we're almost too late. Perhaps another hour of work and they'll be inside. Now, the only thing left to do is lay low until morning when they finish the job. I just hope no one discovers us. In any case, we'll hide safely away from everyone until then. At dawn, Vasif immediately gathers everyone to work. I pray he doesn't look into the tent where we hid the bound guards. But Vasif, thankfully, doesn't think to check for anyone in there, and so passes it by. He clearly isn't paying attention to the number of his men either. He probably thinks it's less important than monitoring the prisoners. I'm relieved when I finally see Duncan and my father. They're both alive, although not quite all right. Amin and I are hiding near the temple so that we can immediately enter once the entrance is cleared, and are closely monitoring Farouk and Vasif. Vasif, order your men to move the crates of weapons closer to the entrance. Soon the entrance to the Temple of Sekhmet will be unsealed, and we should do nothing to delay our master. He is already impatient. Understood. Master, are you awake? The key responds to the presence of the hexagon. Its heat keeps me awake. The entrance is about to be uncovered from the sand, and soon you will regain your former power and glory, Master. I am very pleased. Prepare yourself, my servant. Tonight you will receive your reward for your faithfulness. Thank you, Master. Now give me your knife. Is this for the key? Is there truly no other way to retrieve it? Physical pain is nothing compared to the suffering I experienced during buried beneath the sands for thousands of years. Give me the knife, servant. As you wish, Master. Farouk pulls a dagger adorned with fanciful ornamentation out of his clothing and reverently hands it to the former pharaoh. With a wistful look on his face, Ramusu takes it and inspects the fine threading on the handle. Soon I will be home. Yes, Master. Ramusu slowly walks towards his tent, having lost all interest in Farouk. Suddenly, cries of joy ring out from the workers. Sir, the entrance to the temple is clear. Well done, Vasif. But there is something else. What is it? 2 of my men have disappeared. I cannot find them anywhere. It does not matter, Vasif. Surely the lazy pigs are sleeping somewhere. I will inspect the safety of the temple's interior now. And if everything is satisfactory, you will shoot the captives before their master begins the ritual, so they cannot attempt to stop him. Yes, sir. Then Farouk quickly enters the temple. Amin, did you hear that? We need to save the archaeologists before Vasif kills them all and Ramusu begins the ritual. I heard it all, Margaret. Without Sotis, we cannot deal with Ramusu, and she is not here yet. Oh God, that's right, Sotis! Damn it! Did she decide not to come? Then everything we have done will be for naught. Then I noticed commotion near the temple's entrance. It seems Farouk has already examined the condition of the hexagon, and has decided that they can start the ritual. As such, Vasif begins gathering the captives in front of the temple to execute them. Oh God, Duncan looks awful. What did they do to him? For a brief moment, I feel the urgent desire to rush out and throw my arms around him. Looking at Mackenzie now, I realize how much I care about him and want to be with him, and no one else. I touch my pocket underneath the guard's clothing and feel the handkerchief Duncan gave me to wipe away my tears. Perhaps now his handkerchief could be used... No, I'm not using Sothis' shield. Stop it. Perhaps now this handkerchief could be used to wipe the blood from him. I have a strange feeling that despite his humble appearance, he's up to something. Father, too, looks oddly calm for a man being led to his execution. We need to help them before it's too late. But how? Vasif and the other guards usher my father, Mackenzie, and the rest of the archaeologists to the place of execution. Then Vasif motions to his thugs to prepare to open fire. I gasp for breath. But the moment before Vasif orders them to shoot, Mackenzie suddenly shouts something, and everyone who is about to be executed, including my father, run in different directions. The guards begin shooting aimlessly, trying to hit at least some of them. Suddenly, Father trips on a stone and falls. Farouk, seeing this, grabs Vasif's gun and takes aim. Another moment, and he'll kill him. Uh-oh. Okay, well, here we go. I'm gonna have to save, because I don't know who to run to. And 2, I gotta go to the bathroom again. So you gotta wait in suspense. You have to wait in suspense for a minute while I go to the bathroom. But we're getting to the end. This is almost over. I don't know. If I rush Farouk, I might die. Oh, shit. Alright. Let's see. We're gonna save. I'm gonna run to my father. Without thinking, I jump up and run to my father. Amin tries to stop me, but is unable to, as the fear for my father's life gives me speed. In the corner of my eye, I see... This is it. I'm dead. I see Farouk take aim. At the moment when I am between Farouk and my father, a shot is fired. The pain travels through my body in a blinding flash, and before my consciousness fades, I realize I caught the bullet instead of... Dead end number 3, thicker than water. Alright, we need to load. Yes. I died. Alright. Damn, I have to stop Farouk before he fires. Abandoning my disguise, I rush to the bastard, and once beside him, sharply force his gun to the sky. There's a shot, but it doesn't hit anyone. What the hell? Miss Dawson? What a silly masquerade. So you are alive? Realizing I just gave myself away in the most blatant manner possible, I look around at a loss. Amin is nowhere to be seen, but knowing his talent for disguise, I'm not surprised. Meanwhile, Vasif's men have already grabbed my father and Mackenzie and bring them before Farouk. If you think you will be able to stop us, you are wrong. The master is already within the hexagon. Or with the hexagon. Margot, you're alive! I was so afraid that you had perished in the desert. What a touching family reunion. Well, now you will both die in front of each other. You're such scum, Farouk. Robert was right. For God's sake, Richard, shut up! Do not annoy me any further. Farouk signs to Vasif, and he immediately grabs my father and drags him away. I notice that the bandits have already shot and killed several of the archaeologists, and they are about to do the same with Father and Mackenzie. Hell, if I don't do something right now, it'll all be over. Wait! I rush to Farouk and grab his hands, trying to make it look like a humble plea. Mr. Farouk, you have always been a gentleman with me. Yes, I understand that we all must die, but will you fulfill my last wish before I die? Farouk, astonished at this unexpected turn of events, orders his men to stand down. Seeing him hesitate, I almost cry. Mr. Farouk, be a gentleman to the end. Please show your nobility. I know perfectly well that such words as Farouk and noble are polar opposites of each other, but I started the charade and I need to finish it. Margot, what are you doing? Whatever you're thinking, this man is not worthy of your humiliation. Richard, shut up now. What do you want from me, Miss Margaret? You do realize that even if I let you or anyone else go, it will not matter after the ritual. That's not what I mean, Mr. Farouk. You know that my father and I are both archaeologists like you. Please allow us the opportunity to witness Ramasu's ritual. What? Why would you want to? I want to witness the son of Sekhmet return to the past, to the era of ancient Egypt, with my own eyes. I am sure that my father and Mr. Mackenzie also wish this. He cannot stop you, or Ramasu. I know the only way to kill Ramasu is to destroy him with the help of Anubis. I also know that all of the priests who were able to seal him away are dead. And you think I will allow you into the temple as spectators? Please, Mr. Farouk, this is my final request. Perhaps you were right. The three of you are unable to break the rites of the ritual, so it is unlikely the master will be at risk. Vasif, let them go. Damn, that really worked? My heart literally stops from excitement. Farouk walks towards the temple entrance and signs for his men to follow him. Then, one of the guards grabs me by the hand and leads me behind Farouk. Abruptly, he leans over and whispers into my ear. Sotis is already here. What? Damn, it's Amin. Unlike me, his outfit suits him well. Nobody pays attention to Amin, and so he seamlessly merges with the rest of Farouk's mercenaries. In the corner of my eye, I notice Duncan staring at me as if he's unable to look away. Genuine joy fills his face, revealing that he, too, has been worried about me. I want to move closer to him, but now is not the time. It is more important that we enter Sekhmet's sanctum. Once we are near the temple entrance, I realize that everything will be over soon. The past, the future, everything depends on what happens here and now. Goosebumps run up my back, but I try to pretend that I am at peace with my inevitable death so that Farouk doesn't suspect anything. After descending a broad staircase, we find ourselves in a large room lit only by dim torches. So that thing in the center is the hexagon. Ramasu was already here. He stands silently, as if thinking about something, near the hexagon, which is covered in a thick layer of dust. Master. Servant, why have you brought these people here? Do not mind them. They will not interfere. Let them enjoy their last glimpse of life. Ramasu angrily looks at us, then turns back to the hexagon again. Apparently deciding that it's time to begin, he wipes the dust off the artifact with his sleeve, and it starts flickering strangely. Seeing this, Ramasu smiles and begins to remove his clothes. What is he doing? Why? Meanwhile, Duncan, whose guard is distracted by the show, comes close to me. Meg, you have no idea how glad I am you're alive. I almost went mad when you disappeared. I've never worried for anyone else as I have for you. Duncan, I really missed you too. You know what? Just deal with it, baby Ted. Just deal with it. Hearing this, Mackenzie takes me in his arms and pulls me close. If we survive this, I'm never letting you go. We will survive. I brought people with me who know how to stop Ramasu. We just need to wait for the moment he uses the key. I realize now how bad of a bodyguard I turned out to be. The girl I'm supposed to protect is now trying to save me. I'm sure someday you will have your chance to save me. Duncan laughs softly and hugs me even tighter. There's a deliberate cough from my father, and I realize we're not alone. Freeing myself from Duncan's arms, I look around. Where the hell is Sotis? I know Amin couldn't have been mistaken. Stop screaming, baby Ted. It's fine. It's romance. This is what us ladies love. Like, this stuff happens, and then our hearts get all, like, excited and race, and we just... I don't know. I can't explain it. We love it. All right. I once again look at Ramasu's direction. There you go. Lewd fans. Whatever. Okay, they hugged and they're like, I love you. That's not lewd. Lewd mansers. Oh my god. It is. I know. It isn't even lewd. Come on. Okay, well, maybe this is a little lewd. He's already removed all his clothing except for some sort of loincloth. Then he begins to whisper something in ancient Egyptian, but I can't make out the words from here. It's probably some sort of prayer. Finally, he pulls out a dagger, which Farouk had recently given him, and touches it to the skin on his chest. Finding what he is looking for, Ramasu does not hesitate. He immediately begins cutting deeply into the flesh, plunging the dagger into his body. Even from here, I can clearly see that no matter how deep his wound, it instantly heals. Finally, after several failed attempts, the former pharaoh pulls out something that was sewn into his body. Is that the key? So that's where he hid it, so that no one could find it. What a horrific idea. When Ramasu brings the key to the hexagon, its glow intensifies, becoming almost unbearable. As if charmed, I'm unable to look away from the scene. The silence that accompanies all of this is only heightened by a sense of unreality. Finally, Ramasu finds a hole in what seems to be the completely monolithic surface of the hexagon and inserts the key. The room is filled with obscured, frightening sounds, and an unknown force lifts Ramasu into the air, shrouding him in light. The hexagon also lifts above its podium and begins to spin in the air, moving quickly. It spins faster and faster until the human eye is unable to distinguish its movement at all. God, what is happening? When it reaches the peak speed of its rotation, the hexagon begins to increase in size. It no longer looks like a piece of metal. It seems as if the artifact is beginning to transform into a portal from one time to another. Where the hell is Sotis? The portal is almost open. I have no time to think about it when suddenly... Oh, this is lewd! I mean, come on. What is that outfit? Seriously. Did you miss me? Don't look at me like that. This is the garb of the chief priestess, and I am obliged to wear it. Of course, of course. The Egyptian glances at Ramasu, who is in a comatose state, almost touching the ceiling of the hall. Oh, it seems I almost arrived too late. Who the hell is... Vasif, deal with this. No one can interfere with the master. Nodding to Farouk, Vasif signs to the guards and they all rush towards Sotis. But they're unable to lay a finger on her as Amin and Duncan burst into the thick of their enemies and a fight ensues. My father, who almost immediately realizes what is happening, also rushes into battle. Come on, we need to begin the ritual while the guards are busy. But Amin... It's fine. He reads the last part of the text. Now is our time. I just hope he isn't dead by the time it's his turn. Damn it. What are you waiting for? We need to begin. Sotis rushes to the hexagon's side and stands almost beneath it, so that it now hovers above her head at a height of about 4 meters. It is impossible to call this cloud of energy the hexagon. It is clearly a portal, which is about to open at any moment. I try to remember everything Sotis taught me about the ritual, and therefore stand to the left, close to her. Sotis begins pronouncing the words of the ancient prayer loudly and clearly, while simultaneously making strange hand movements. Before she is able to say more than a few words, Ramasu begins to regain consciousness. Crap, this is really bad. Meanwhile, Father, Duncan, and Amin are still trying to prevent the mercenaries from reaching us. Sotis' bell grows louder and louder, its echoes bouncing off the stone walls. I take out my papyrus and study the text silently, so as to not make any mistake. Finally, Sotis stops and nods to me. Trying to contain my emotions, I begin reading from the priest while the priestess draws ancient symbols on the floor. As soon as she finishes each symbol, it rises into the air and begins to glow. However, the portal is now fully open and begins to descend lower and lower. Farouk, knowing his master's plans are about to fail, rushes Sotis, trying to stop her. They begin to fight, and I notice the symbols Sotis has drawn are starting to fade away now that they are no longer receiving power from the priestess. Seeing no other option, I grab a stone lying on the floor and with all my strength bash Farouk on the head when he gets close to me. He collapses unconscious, and I'm literally frozen with anxiety, but then manage to continue reading the prayer text. I think I should thank you. Perhaps I'll do it later, if I don't forget, of course. Sotis slyly winks at me and begins redrawing the characters that have almost disappeared. God, what kind of a woman is she? I'm nearing the end of my text, but Amin is still unable to free himself from the thick of things. Finally, I finish my part. Amin, move your ass, it's your turn! The no-man deftly dodges a blow, silently rushes to Sotis, and then stands to her right. He, unlike myself, does not need the papyrus. Amin begins to chant the final part of the prayer from memory, while Sotis works to keep her symbols in the air. But Ramasu has already regained consciousness, and the unknown force that lifts him in the air gently lowers him down. The moment Ramasu's feet touch the floor, Amin speaks the final words of the prayer, and nothing happens. Nothing. Damn, it didn't work? Ramasu, seeing the priestess, flies into a rage. It is at this time that Farouk regains consciousness and stands back up, rubbing his bruised head. Unfortunately for him, he is standing between Ramasu and Sotis. The former pharaoh grabs him by the neck and lifts him off the ground. You told me no one would interfere, servant. Sorry, master. You have done your job poorly. I do not need such a servant. No, Esther, please! Ramasu sharply squeezes Farouk's neck. I hear the hideous crunch of bones, and then the director of the museum falls to the floor dead. For a second, I'm stunned by the fact that Ramasu hasn't lost his strength, having relinquished the key, but immediately recall Amin's words that it would happen gradually over time. And as Ramasu approaches us, Sotis suddenly notices something among the symbols as they hang in the air. She rushes to them, uttering obscure ancient Egyptian phrases as she moves. The mercenaries notice a black cloud which gradually materializes into a figure and runs screaming from the temple. It's Anubis. The ritual was a success, so there's still a chance to defeat Ramasu. O great Lord Bao, Lord of the sacred land, the first of the divine canopy, the knower of secrets. You are the commander of justice in the world of the dead, and know whose time it is to leave this world, and whose time it is to stay. We, your slaves, cry out to thee, for there is one among us who has hidden from your justice for thousands of years, violating the laws of life and death. Bring forth your righteous judgment and take this violator of laws to the worlds of the dead, for he is no longer under the protection of other gods and cannot resist the truth. No, no! The great goddess Sekhmet, the mistress of the wasteland, the bringer of drought, calls me her son, and has given me the right to live unto the world's end. Oops. Vain fool, you are the first. You are not the first, and will not be the last, of whom Sekhmet calls her sons, and to whom she has given power in the hope of an endless war. But you, as all else, have failed her. Your time has long passed, and it is time for you to appear in the court of Osiris. No! I do not believe it! Sekhmet will come for me! She has long forgotten you, mortal. Now go! Await! Amat awaits your presence near the scales. these words, Anubis imperiously calls forth Ramasu. The former pharaoh is unable to resist the god of death and goes to him. An expression of horror is frozen on Ramasu's face, but he does not hesitate as he draws ever closer. The Egyptian stops at the feet of Anubis and, as if enchanted, begins staring into the empty glowing eyes of the god jackal. Finally, Anubis holds out his hand, which, like smoke, passes through Ramasu's body and rips out his soul. Ramasu falls, his body quickly decaying, leaving behind nothing but a handful of dust. As soon as this happens, the portal instantly shrinks, reforms into the hexagon, and with a metallic ring falls to the floor, to the stone floor. Anubis then disappears, along with Ramasu's soul, in a cloud of black smoke. Margot, dear, are you all right? Daddy. I suddenly feel absolutely exhausted, and all I can do is hug my father as we silently stand here trying to recover. There are crates of dynamite outside. We need to bring them in here and blow up the temple. But it has great value to science. We must not think like archaeologists right now, Margot. Some things should never be found. I look to Amin. He is obviously pleased with the turn of events. Perhaps Father is right. All of this should be destroyed so that not even a trace is left. Too frightening are the secrets that this ancient sanctuary holds. When we go out into the fresh air from the oppressive gloom of the temple, I happily pull off the mercenary's clothing. Here, outside, the sun is shining so brightly that it's blinding, and everything that happened in the underground chambers of the sanctuary now seem like a bad dream. God, I can't believe this horror is finally over. Duncan, Amin, we did it! Thank God, I'm so glad everything worked out. It's a pity Mr. Green and the others are no longer here for this moment. I mean, I don't know how to thank you, and Sotis. What you did was invaluable. We are the ones who should be thanking you, Margaret. Without you, nothing could have been done. And where is Sotis? I look around and see Sotis untying a camel. Apparently, she intends to flee into the wilderness. Noticing that I see her, she blows me a kiss. I think I should go. Amin quickly walks to his camel, which has already begun to wander off on its own, and I am left alone with Duncan. I feel Duncan gently put his arm around my shoulder and kiss my cheek. How strange so many terrible things have happened this week, and yet I can still smile. I already told you that you're beautiful when you smile, didn't I? You're just a flatterer, Mackenzie. You probably say that to all the girls. You know, at first I thought you were one of those girls, the ones I passed by without noticing. Too serious, too quick-tempered, a prude in glasses. A prude? So that's what you thought of me? I realize how deceptive first impressions can be. I've never been very good with words. I'm not smart enough to be, but I'll try to express how I feel. You broke into my life, turned everything upside down, and made me see the world from different eyes. And now I don't know what to do. I can't go on living how I lived before. Or rather, I can't live without you. Duncan. Wait, let me finish, while I have the courage. I think I love you, Meg. I hold my breath and my heart starts beating faster. Mackenzie just confessed to me. Stop it, BB10! This is good stuff! Good stuff! Oh my god. Just call me Duncan. You and your jokes again. But I really mean it. It's the first time I've ever known what it's like to worry about another person, not just for myself. You like worrying about me? If so, I can help with that again. I like knowing there's a person whose life is more important than my own. Hearing this, I can't hold my emotions in any longer and hug Duncan. I want to laugh and cry at the same time. How did it happen that I'm so in love with this idiot? I'm so touched by everything that's happened, I don't even notice my father. It's only when he delicately clears his throat that he draws my attention. Daddy? Margot, I need to talk to you. I look at Duncan, but he just smiles encouragingly. Damn, I hope Father doesn't want to talk to me about Lord Whimsy and the wedding. After what Duncan just said to me, I'd rather die than marry another man. My father and I step aside. He looks very pensive, maybe even sad, which makes me uncomfortable. You know, Margot, since Robert's death, I've learned a lot. First of all, I realize how selfish and blind I was towards everyone else. But first and foremost, to you. Daddy? It was my blindness and indifference to others' feelings that led us to these disastrous consequences. I was so blind that even when my best friend was suffering, I wouldn't let him go. You must think I'm a monster. God knows I deserve it. I'm struck by his monologue, as my father has never shown me this side of himself. He has always been strong, cold, and indifferent, but now I don't even recognize the man standing before me. These last few days, you risked a lot to fix my mistakes. But Daddy, in the end, I'm still alive. See, everything is okay. I can't let that happen again. What are you talking about? I have a bad feeling in my chest. I'm sorry, but you'll have to abandon the idea of continuing archaeology. Moreover, I shall give it up too. Daddy, you can't do that. I'm sorry, Margot, but I have to. Nobody will die due to my stupidity and carelessness ever again, especially not you, my only daughter. Today we return to Cairo and both forget about archaeology forever. Daddy, I feel tears of frustration well in my eyes. Don't think I didn't take into account the fact that you don't want to marry Lord Whimsy. I'll cancel the wedding. I have made the decision to force Gregory to find a job, and he will pay his debts himself. I think I can convince the lenders to wait a little. I'm so upset that even this knowledge doesn't give me a single shred of joy. Margot, look. I just don't want you to ever fall into such a situation again. Mr. Dawson, I'm sorry to interrupt. I accidentally overheard your conversation with Meg, and I believe you're wrong. Duncan? Tell me, what is most important to you? That your daughter is happy, or that she is safe? Why should one contradict the other? But Daddy, they do. I can't be happy sitting at home or attending balls and social receptions. Margot, I've already taken one step to meet you in the middle when I decided to cancel your wedding to Lord Whimsy. And I thank you for not forcing me to marry a man I do not love. Margot. Mr. Dawson, if you really want to see your daughter happy, why not let her choose for herself? But I know what's best for her. Only Meg knows what's best for Meg. Father sighs heavily. I don't know what to do. Why don't you ask your daughter what she wants for once? She's here now, in front of you. Father looks at me, his gaze showing confusion. He's so used to not considering my opinions, the idea that he could simply ask for them shocks him. Finally, he pulls himself together. Margot, what do you want to do next? I want to continue archaeology. I want to work, go on expeditions. One day, I would like to write scientific papers on ancient Egypt. I see. And there's nothing more in your plans? Mackenzie, what are you asking? Don't you want to marry a very attractive blonde who may be against you digging through the earth in search of shards? What kind of joke is this? This isn't a joke, Mr. Dawson. I'm asking for your beautiful, passionate, and clever daughter's hand in marriage. Father looks to me in confusion. I think it's my turn to say something. Yes, I want to marry him. Fine, do whatever you want. But you, Margot, don't you come complaining to me afterward when things don't go the way you want. Oh, Daddy, thank you so much. Father shrugs me off and walks away. You like my last name? You say it more often than my first. Margaret Mackenzie. I like the sound of it. I don't know. In my opinion, it doesn't sound the best. Duncan laughs loudly and kisses me on the cheek. You'll get used to it. Good ending with Duncan. Mr. and Mrs. Adventurers. Yay! No, not divorce in 2 months! Not divorce in 2 months! We're gonna go off and have adventures! And dig in the sand! And find pottery! And beat off bandits and all that stuff. Okay, so that's it. That's it. I read through all of the only thing we didn't get was the scene where Duncan and Mark are playing in the tent, and that was because BB Ted told me I needed to be mean to Duncan early on. Oh well. So that's it. That is These Nights in Cairo, and now that I played through it again, I think I'm gonna go review it. I think I'm gonna go review this game. I actually really listen. This game is the writing in this game for an indie otome game, especially like a Russian one that was translated. Which again, I helped clean up the translation a little bit, but it's actually really good. The writing's good. All the characters have good motivations. There's background for everything. It was well researched with the Egyptian mythology and all this stuff. It was great. It was not torture. It was not torture. Come on.